Chapter 3:24. After swallowing the purple flame dragon's head, Enlin continued onward with his mouth wide open. Under the effects of the wings of true fire cultivation method, the divine flames continued to flow into his dantian. It wasn't scorching hot. Instead, it was extremely warm and comfortable. He ate the fire dragon's neck, then the fire dragon's waist, and finally the fire dragon's tail. A flame in the shape of a star suddenly fled into the distance with a deathly pale face. It was none other than the source of the demonic star flame. However, it still couldn't escape Enlin's cavernous mouth in the end and was swallowed into his stomach. Burp. Enlin burped loudly and smacked his lips as if he was savoring the aftertaste. Strawberry flavor, a little spicy. He thought about it for a moment before making this evaluation. Yi Chongshan's mouth gaped open. Su Qinyan, the word star, appeared in the system's wings of true fire cultivation method. Enlin nodded with satisfaction before descending to the ground and making his way toward Yi Chongshan. Yi Chongshan sat down on the ground. He was scared out of his wits, and his eyes were filled with terror. One had to realize that the demonic star flame was one of the four most difficult divine flames to tame on this continent. It had been swallowed just like that. How could he not be astonished by this? Do you have any other divine flames? They taste quite good. I want to eat more, Enlin asked with a smile. Yi Chongshan shook his head like a rattle drum upon hearing this. No, that's all. My family only has one type of divine flame. Battle God Ziyang of the Beihong Empire also has a divine flame. We don't know anything else. A hint of disappointment appeared on Enlin's face. I knew that a long time ago. Yi Chongshan was just about to beg for mercy at the sight of the cold expression on Enlin's face when a black light flashed past. Yi Chongshan had already been severely wounded by the backlash of the demonic star flame, so he had no time to defend himself. Splat! Blood splattered onto the ground. Grand Elder Yi Chongtian of the Jiaxing Pavilion had fallen. Enlin sheathed his sword and turned to the astonished woman beside him with a gentle smile. Let's go to our next destination. Su Qinyan blinked and couldn't help but ask, You ate so much divine flame. Isn't your stomach hot? A smug smile appeared on Enlin's face. It's not hot at all. Oh. Su Qinyan nodded blankly and didn't ask any more questions. She leaped on her moonlight disc and flew toward the next location. The surviving disciples of the Jiaxing Pavilion stared dumbly at the two figures flying into the sky. Something in their hearts began to crumble. Of the Jiaxing Pavilion disciples who had survived, something in their hearts began to crumble. Even the demonic star flame, one of the four divine flames that the Grand Elder had summoned, and the purple flaming dragon that could incinerate all things, was still unable to deal with those two. The star-picking pavilion had been completely defeated. An immortal sword Enlin and the Moonlight Holy Maiden had attacked the Jiaxing Pavilion. Pavilion leader Ling Xiangla and Grand Elder Yi Chongshan had died in battle. The demonic star flame of the four divine flames had appeared before being devoured by Enlin. News of this spread like wildfire throughout the entire Ao Exine Empire and even the entire Zhanqi continent. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. That was one of the 10 most powerful sects in the Ao Exine Empire, the Jiaxing Pavilion. The Pavilion Master and the Grand Elder were both Battle Saint-level powerhouses, but such existences were actually killed by the two of them, just like that. Even the demonic star flame had appeared, but it had been devoured in the end. The power behind this was absolutely terrifying. Everyone couldn't help but recall Enlin's provocative words to the battle god. A few days ago, everyone thought that he was just a joke. Almost everyone thought that Enlin was a lunatic who had overestimated himself. But now, they all drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing his words. Someone who was able to destroy the Jiaxing Pavilion and devour the four divine flames. How could a battle god not take him seriously? We're in for a good show. Battle god Su Ming won't be able to ignore this even if he wants to. He'll definitely do something about it. At this point, it's unlikely that the Moonlight Holy Maiden and Enlin will be recruited. Instead, they'll most likely engage in a fierce battle. I feel like Enlin and the Moonlight Holy Maiden will choose to run. They are powerful, but there's no way they can defeat a battle god. At most, they'll be at the pinnacle of the battle sage stage. That's right. The difference between their cultivation bases is like the difference between heaven and earth. If Enlin really wants to fight a battle god, he'll have to become the fourth battle god on the continent first. Just as everyone was discussing among themselves, another piece of shocking news began to spread throughout the Ao Exine Empire. 2 battle emperors of the Savage Beast sect had been slain. It was rumored that Hu Guan was the culprit. The 9 Lotus demonic sect had been razed to the ground, and 5 battle emperors had been slain by a single person. His name was Myriad Spirit Taoist, also known as Xian Yuan Cheng. The Holy Black Sky sect, one of the 10 most powerful sects in the Ao Exine Empire, had also fallen to a woman. Battle Sage Patriarch Black Sky had fallen, and the woman was known as Fairy Miaohua, also known as Su Xiaolan. The people of the Ao Exine Empire were all shocked speechless. At the same time, they couldn't understand why so many new powerful beings would suddenly appear in this world. Many of the evil sects were even more frightened and didn't dare to continue running rampant. A single thought welled up in everyone's mind, and that was the Ao Exine Empire was about to change. At the capital city of the Ao Exine Empire, Xianjing City, Enlin and Su Qinyun were strolling casually on the streets of the capital city. They had naturally received the news as well. Enlin's first reaction was, "What the hell are Myriad Spirit Taoist and Fairy Miaohua?" Setting aside the strange terms of address, he knew that his teammates were responding to each other from afar, so he was in a good mood. "I really want to see Xiaolan and Xian Yuancheng as soon as possible." Su Qinyun's smile was as vibrant as a spring breeze, and she was extremely adorable as she munched on her candied haws. If one hadn't seen the Moonlight Holy Maiden with their own eyes, there was no way they would be able to associate such an adorable young girl with the mysterious woman who struck fear into the hearts of all. "Sure, we'll wait for them here." And Lin rubbed Su Qinyun's little head with a smile. Su Qinyun's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't seem to be repulsed. Instead, she seemed to be enjoying it like a little kitten. The sunlight shone down on the two of them, creating a warm and natural scene. After spending a few days alone together, the two of them had become much closer to one another. And Lin and Su Qinyun's whereabouts were all very obvious, and that path led directly to the capital city of the Ao Exine Empire. As such, all of the team members would choose to meet up at Heart Realm City and fight the boss as a team. And Lin and Su Qinyun wandered into a restaurant and ordered a bunch of premium delicacies. As for money, there was quite a bit of money in the storage rings of the two battle sages. It was a pity that they couldn't use their weapons. Those weapons were all suitable for battle aura, and if they wanted to convert them into vital energy, they would have to be modified. And Lin was a foodie no matter where he went, and he couldn't stop eating all of these exotic delicacies. In particular, the meat that had been nourished by battle aura had a unique texture, and it was extremely chewy. Su Qinyun enjoyed the table full of delicacies, and she ate slowly in a very ladylike manner. Even though she was only eating, the onlookers found her to be an exquisitely beautiful sight. Just as the two of them were enjoying their meal at the restaurant, an announcement suddenly began to spread throughout the entire continent, shocking everyone. Battle God Su Ming invited Sword Immortal and Lin and the Moonlight Holy Maiden to meet him at Heart Realm Mountain in 10 days. Chapter 325. Battle God Su Ming's open invitation to the two of them to battle on the Heart State Mountain was like a bomb thrown into a turbulent lake. This was the first time Battle God Su Ming had made a public declaration, and it was a testament to his determination to resolve this issue through battle. Not long after that, Sword Immortal and Lin also sent a messenger to inform them that he would arrive in 10 days. All of a sudden, all of the powerful beings in the Ao Exine Empire and even the entire Zhanxi continent were alerted by this news, and all of them turned their attention to the Heart Mountain of the Ao Exine Empire. Everyone was alerted to the fact that an earth-shattering battle was about to take place. This was the most anticipated battle in the last several hundred years. After several hundred years of peace, this continent was finally going to welcome an exciting event. This was a battle between two powerful beings at the pinnacle of the continent. The outcome of their battle could even influence the direction of the entire world. Many curious people had already started to gather at the Heart Mountain in hopes of witnessing this rare battle. Beihong Empire, White Crane Lake Island. A middle-aged man in a purple robe was leaning against a throne. His eyes seemed to contain the power of the scorching sun as he blinked, striking fear into everyone's hearts. Ziyang, you're not going to the Jing Xian Mountain? Lu Ziyu stood beside the throne and asked curiously. There's nothing to see. This is a battle between two beings of different levels. No matter how close their cultivation bases are, as long as they haven't crossed that threshold, there's only one result. A faint smile appeared on battle god Ziyang's face. However, the absolute confidence of an invincible battle god was displayed on his face. The Imperial advisor hesitated momentarily before continuing. I've investigated Sword Immortal and Lin and the Moonlight Holy Maiden, and I discovered a theory that is yet to be verified. That is, they're using the energy of heaven and earth, not battle chi. Battle god Ziyang's eyes widened. Boom! The sun appeared in the sky. Scorching waves of heat swept through the air, and the entire space around them twisted and warped as the water in the White Crane Lake evaporated in an instant. TSK. What a beautiful lake, and it's gone just like that. By the way, can you restrain yourself next time? Lu Ziyu pulled out a piece of dark ice jade to cool himself as he spoke while wiping away the sweat on his forehead. Battle god Ziyang ignored the Imperial advisor's complaints. Instead, he stood up with a dazzling light in his eyes. Let's go to the Jing Xian Mountain. The Snake Spirit Empire, this vast area, was strangely quiet. Apart from some commotion and heated discussions among the grassroots snake clans, the high-level experts were all silent. Behind this peace, no one knew what had happened. It was a sunny afternoon. On the fifth day, when Enlin and Su Qianyun wandered around Jing Xian City, they met Xianyuan, Cheng, and White. Brother Cheng, haha, I finally ran into you. Enlin made his way over to her and gave her a bear hug. How can I not be here to cheer for student Enlin and the battled arch? Xianyuan Cheng said warmly, a relaxed smile on his face. Hey, don't mention it. It's really tiring for me to be the leader to gather my teammates. I'm even willing to make the whole world my enemy. Enlin sighed with a stern expression. Xianyuan Cheng's lips twitched, and he didn't know what to say. Su Qianyun, on the other hand, smiled sweetly and chimed in. The price of being noble and mighty is responsibility. Well said. Enlin looked at the female beside him with approval on his face. A smug smile appeared on Su Qianyun's face upon hearing this. Xianyuan Cheng's chest tightened upon seeing this. Was this how student Su Qianyun used to be? We'll stay at the Blessed Inn. We'll split up during the day and meet up there at night. How's that sound? Xianyuan Cheng took a sip of wine and pointed at the inn across from them. And Lin nodded. Then a thought occurred to him. Big brother Cheng, don't you know how to set up spell formations? Can you set up a spell formation that releases vital energy fluctuations in the inn? That way, they'll be able to find the source of the vital energy fluctuations once they enter this area. Xianyuan Cheng's eyes lit up. That's a great idea. The people of the Zhanqi continent don't cultivate vital energy, so they can't sense vital energy fluctuations. It'll be very discreet to use this spell formation to gather teammates. And Lin immediately went to the Blessed Inn and booked a few rooms. Then, he watched as Xianyuan Cheng set up the spell formation. And Lin and Su Qianyun weren't very proficient in spell formations, so they could only munch on sunflower seeds. After the spell formation was set up, vital energy surged within a radius of 5 kilometers. Of course, Jing Xian City was very large. A radius of 5 kilometers was far from being able to cover the entirety of the city. And Lin, Su Qianyun, and Xianyuan Cheng split up in different directions to search for the other team members. 2 days before the battle, they found Hu Guan and Yao Mingxi. Meanwhile, Su Xiaolan followed the vital energy fluctuations to the blessed inn. Thus, there were a total of 6 members in the 10-man team. 4 of them were still missing. And Lin wasn't worried about Lu Qianhuan and Tang Shimin. As long as they didn't fight a battle god, no one would be able to defeat them. However, there was still no news of Tian Lingling and White Spirit Snake, so Lin was a little concerned. Logically speaking, after causing such a huge commotion, those 4 people would definitely know that he was in Jing Xian City as long as they were in the same world as him. However, they couldn't find him anywhere in Jing Xian City. This was far too strange. Lin and the others repressed their confusion and gathered at the inn to discuss their battle with the battle god. Yao Mingxi was the first to speak with a scorching light in his eyes. Big brother, in my opinion, you should fight battle god Su Ming fair and square in 2 days and trample him beneath your feet. Then, your name will spread far and wide across the world. Wouldn't that be great? Hu Guan nodded in agreement. After that, you should also defeat battle god Ziyang and battle goddess Bai Qiong and conquer the entire continent. Lin, in the eyes of his 2 retarded superfans, he was invincible and deserved to conquer the entire world. Su Xiaolan was a bit more rational. We don't know how powerful the battle god is. If he's at the soul formation final stage, you and Su Qinyan might have a chance. However, if he's even more powerful, such as being able to use spatial powers, then it'll be far too dangerous. It's not like you guys have to fight a battle god. There's no point in doing so. Su Xiaolan's intentions were very clear. Their objective was the Shouyang tomb, not to become the ruler of this entire continent. They could just turn down a challenge from the battle god. If it was time to back down, they should back down. Then, they could look for teammates and inheritances. A thoughtful expression appeared on Xin Yuan Cheng's face. The AOXIan Empire should have a lot of information on them. Controlling such a powerful force would be beneficial to our search for clues about the tomb. Why don't we make the first move tonight? A group fight is better than a one-on-one fight. Their squad leader's intentions were also very clear. They didn't care if the battle god was invited or not. They had to attack together and kill the battle god first. And Lin stroked his chin as he thought to himself. The battle god was clearly trying to use this opportunity to kill him. This was a potential threat that was constantly causing trouble in his territory and refusing to obey orders. So the first thought of a ruler was to kill him. This was also a way to establish his dominance. He had also looked up information on the battle god, and from the descriptions of his attacks, he knew that a normal battle sage would be insta-killed if they didn't go easy on him. Battle sages at the pinnacle of the battle god's abilities could only barely last a few blows, but they would also be killed on the spot after the battle god unleashed his most powerful technique. However, the description of the battle didn't mention anything about spatial phenomena, which was something to be thankful for. If we can really defeat the battle god, it'll be a lot easier for us in the future. Even though battle god Su Ming is currently living alone on Jing Xian Mountain, we don't have a clear understanding of his combat prowess. Even if we attack him as a group, it's still a little risky. Lin was clearly a little hesitant. Xin Yuan Cheng chuckled upon hearing this. How about a 10 million ton hydrogen bomb? And Lin, Su Xiaolan, and Su Qinyan all shuddered upon hearing this. They had witnessed the power of a 10 million ton hydrogen bomb before. It was capable of annihilating the entire ant tribe in an instant. Who would have thought that Xian Yuan Cheng would be in possession of a 10 million ton hydrogen bomb? This was a doomsday weapon. I exchanged a large number of spirit stones for this treasure, so it's my trump card. Do you want to try it or not? Xian Yuan Cheng was a little excited, and Lin's face convulsed upon hearing this. When did Big Brother Cheng's trump card become a hydrogen bomb? He thought about it for a moment before finally making up his mind. All right, let's give Battle God Su Ming a taste of Earth's advanced technology. Chapter 326. Jing Xian Mountain was a divine mountain that was renowned throughout the entire Zhanqi continent. The rocks on this mountain were extremely smooth, as if they were made from the finest jade. There was a clear blue lake on the mountain that looked like a beautiful sapphire from afar. What was most noteworthy was that the battle chi there was extremely rich, at least a dozen times richer than the outside world. As such, this was a restricted area for battle god Su Ming, and normal cultivators were not allowed to enter. The night sky was filled with dazzling stars, and everything was peaceful and tranquil. 6 black figures slowly approached the huge divine mountain. All right, this is the outer perimeter of the protective formation. Let's stop here. After arriving at the outer perimeter, and Lin's eyes were still as white as snow, and he immediately unleashed 3 bursts of energy, which struck 3 different locations in the air. Ripples began to appear in the air before an opening appeared. Whoosh! A ball of water materialized in the air before materializing into Enlin's appearance. This was the first time that Su Qinyun and the others had seen Enlin's water clone technique, and they were all astonished at the sight of the clone with the exact same aura. I'm currently at Spirit Nurturing final stage, so I can maintain my water clone technique for an hour with 1/10 of the main body's power. Enlin number 2 grinned at everyone. Xin Yuan Chung nodded before placing a storage ring on Enlin number 2's finger. Make sure you confirm the target and close the distance before attacking. The temperature at the center of the explosion is the most terrifying. Enlin number 2 smiled confidently. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Wait for my good news. Then, he rode on his wooden sword and flew into the depths of Jing Xian Mountain. His back view was elegant and decisive. Su Xiaolan couldn't help but recite a poem. The wind howls, the water turns cold, the hero never returns. Hu Guan and Yao Mingxi's eyes lit up with excitement. Who would have thought that Big Brother's clone would be so handsome? I love it. And Lin shuddered upon hearing this, and he immediately changed the subject. Let's put some distance between us. It's still too dangerous at this distance. Hearing this, everyone felt that it made sense. It would not be too much to run as far away from such an apocalyptic weapon. At the same time, beside the beautiful lake of Jing Xian Mountain, there was a simple and unadorned palace. A handsome young man with a red mole between his eyebrows was sitting on the holy grass mat. Suddenly, a white light fell from the sky like a meteor. The man opened his eyes and placed one hand on the scabbard in front of his knees. If there were any changes, the dark flash sword, one of the 5 great divine weapons, would be unsheathed without mercy and devour the world with a single strike. The one who appeared in front of the young man was a rather elegant middle-aged man in a purple robe. "Ha ha, Brother Su Ming, long time no see." The purple-robed man laughed and greeted the man in front of him warmly. The young man lifted his eyes and said coldly, "Ziyang, what are you doing here? Can I watch the battle?" The purple-robed man sat on the ground with a nonchalant look on his face. He sat right across from the young man with a smile on his face. Battle god Su Ming chuckled lightly. Watching a battle with no suspense at all is not your style. Could it be you think I'm going to lose? What are you talking about, Brother Su Ming? I'm just worried that you might accidentally kill those 2 people. Battle god Ziyang hurriedly replied. Oh, don't they deserve to be killed? Battle god Su Ming's voice gradually darkened as he looked at the man in front of him. Battle god Ziyang waved a hand and retracted his frivolous expression. They're right in the Ao Xian Empire. I don't believe that you don't know what I know. It's very likely that they're from another world, so they're more useful alive than dead. Also, don't you want to progress further? Battle god Su Ming's expression remained unchanged. I can search their souls for any information I want. Those who aren't from our tribe must have different intentions. This isn't a place where they can do whatever they want. I should make them understand who's in charge here. Battle god Ziyang's heart also sank upon thinking of that man from 1,000 years ago. In the end, he could only heave a forlorn sigh. Sigh, it's up to you. I hope your soul-searching skills haven't deteriorated and you'll be able to extract all the useful information from them. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Huh? Am I interrupting your conversation? Battle god Su Ming and Battle god Ziyang both turned to look at the man who had just swaggered into the room. This man was handsome, and his aura was subdued like flowing water, blending into nature and preventing the 2 of them from detecting him with their divine senses. Battle god Su Ming's expression shifted slightly. Even though he found this to be absurd, he still asked curiously. Sword immortal Enlin? Enlin nodded with a smile. That's me. Are you Battle God Su Ming? Battle God Su Ming couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing this. That's me. What brings you here so late at night? Don't tell me you want to spar with me, because you can't wait for the battle the day after tomorrow. Battle God Su Ming spoke as if he were conversing with an old friend. It was impossible to tell that he was going to kill Enlin in 2 days before searching his soul. Enlin didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he turned to the other person with a curious expression. May I ask who this senior is? Battle God Ziyang chuckled heartily and joined his hands in salute. I am Ziyang, and I am fortunate to be able to witness the renowned sword immortal Enlin in person today. You are indeed a dragon among men, and your bearing is unparalleled. Enlin chuckled internally. What do you mean by witness the true body? I'm a clone. However, it's not wrong to say that he's a dragon among men. He does have a good... Yang was most likely Battle God Ziyang of the Beihong Empire. Now that 2 battle gods had appeared, he was an even bigger threat. Thank God he didn't pin his hopes on the battle the day after tomorrow. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. Su Ming and Ziyang couldn't help but regard this sword immortal in a higher light upon seeing Enlin's calm expression despite knowing that there were 2 battle gods present. Buy one get one free. What a steal, Enlin murmured to himself. What do you mean by one get one free? What are you talking about? Battle God Su Ming realized that things weren't as simple as they seemed, and he fixed his gaze on Enlin. Oh, it means to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I'm here to give you a big present. Enlin's storage ring flashed, and a gargantuan hydrogen bomb suddenly appeared within the palace. It was enshrouded in a dense array of spell formations. This is a 10 million ton hydrogen bomb. Once detonated, its power, bam. Enlin didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence before the space around him warped and twisted, and his body completely disintegrated. It was none other than Battle God Su Ming. His expression shifted upon seeing Enlin's body. He's a fake. The 2 of them turned to look at the gargantuan hydrogen bomb, and a chill ran down their spines. Battle God Ziyang reacted quickly, and a scorching ball of flames shot forth from his hand. With an earth-shattering might, the ball of flames crashed toward the thick, ominous object. Boom! The ball of flames exploded. Boom, boom, boom! The entire heaven and earth had exploded. The explosion instantly engulfed the palace and the lake. Jing Xian Mountain, which stretched for over a dozen kilometers, was also instantly reduced to dust by boundless light and heat. A violent earthquake erupted, and violent shock waves tore apart the entire continent. The terrifying sound was like the enraged roar of a primordial beast, and everyone within a radius of several hundred kilometers could hear it clearly. That night, Jing Xian City became as bright as day. The citizens and powerful beings who had come to spectate the battle all stared in shock at the direction of Jing Xian Mountain. There was a new sun there, a sun that made them tremble in fear. On top of its head was a mushroom that was grinning at them with a sinister smile. Chapter 327. Is this the end of the world? Someone stared blankly at the ball of fire in the distance and the cloud of dust in the sky. This is divine might. This is divine punishment. Isn't Battle God Su Ming at Jing Xian Mountain? Then he must have done something deranged. That's why he's in such a big trouble. The destructive power of the hydrogen bomb had far exceeded the imagination of the people of the Jiangxi continent. Their hearts were filled with awe and fear as they stared at the miraculous scene unfolding before them. Enlin and his team members also stared silently at this beautiful scene of violence and destruction. Xin Yuancheng and the others had already learned from Enlin that Battle God Ziyang was also there. This was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Battle God Ziyang's bad luck was to blame. Of all times, he had to pick this time to visit. This hydrogen bomb is so powerful, there shouldn't even be a speck of dust left of them, right? It was Guan's first time seeing Earth's killing machine. That kind of power really made him feel terrified. Yao Mingxi was also flabbergasted as he watched from the side. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. And Lin shook his head upon hearing this. He hadn't forgotten how the Ant Queen had managed to escape from the ant tribe. Never underestimate any mighty figure. The trump cards they possessed could very well turn the tide of an entire battle. Don't let your guard down. They're so powerful, they're definitely not dead. And Lin offered some words of comfort. To their surprise, a streak of white light burst forth from the center of the explosion like a shooting star. A figure appeared on the barren ground, panting heavily. This was none other than Battle God Ziyang, who had traveled all the way from the Beihong Empire. All that was left of him was his underwear. Some of his muscles had turned crimson, while others had been charred. Who would have thought that I, Battle God Ziyang, will be severely wounded by fire one day? Luckily, I've subdued the great solar flame, and I've melted it with fire to offset the damage. I also have the heaven and earth mirror that Lu Ziyu gave me to protect me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to escape. Battle God Ziyang murmured to himself with fear lingering in his heart as he stared at the apocalyptic scene before him. Huh, not only do you have a divine fire, but you also have a divine weapon? This is a pleasant surprise. A familiar voice traveled over, causing Battle God Ziyang to tremble in fear. He turned around and saw 6 figures appear in front of him. The person at the very front was a man who made him gnash his teeth in anger and want to skin him alive. It's you, Lin. What kind of demonic technique did you use? Battle God Ziyang immediately yelled upon seeing Lin. Uncultured. How scary. I'm clearly using technology. And Lin smiled faintly as he released Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 from his storage ring. If you're not convinced, I can let you have a taste of another type of technology. Battle God Ziyang's expression faltered upon hearing this. A sense of fear welled up in his heart as he looked at the 2 shiny Gundams. It couldn't be helped. He was scared of the hydrogen bomb. Was this the Yao art called technology? How terrifying. Why is this Battle God naked? How perverted. Su Xiaolan couldn't help but spit at the sight of Battle God Ziyang, who was only left with his underwear. Su Qinyun had never been to such a grand occasion before, so she covered her eyes and blushed with embarrassment. Battle God Ziyang's chest tightened, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. 10,000 mythological bees stampeded over his heart. F*CK. My clothes were destroyed by you guys, and you're blaming me for being a pervert? Is there no justice in this world? Is the mirror in your left hand the divine weapon, the universal mirror? Hand it over if you want to live. And Lin's eyes were like torches as he locked onto the black and white mirror in Battle God Ziyang's hand. All right, I didn't even hold it against you guys, but you're trying to bully me. Don't go too far. Battle God Ziyang roared as a terrifying aura surged toward Lin and the others like a raging ocean. You have no choice. And Lin also roared as a powerful aura burst forth from his body. At the same time, Su Xiaolan, Su Qinyun, Xinyuan Cheng, Yao Mingxi, and Huan also released their auras and charged toward Battle God Ziyang. Battle God Ziyang was already severely wounded and could only unleash the power of a battle sage at the pinnacle. His aura was instantly crushed by the combined auras of the 6 of them. As his chi and blood surged, he spat out another mouthful of blood. I'll give you 10 seconds to consider. If you don't hand over the universal mirror, don't blame us for killing you, and Lin said with a solemn expression. A conflicted expression appeared on Battle God Ziyang's face before he quickly regained his composure. Here, he tossed the universal mirror to Lin. He knew that his life was the most important thing at a time like this. He could disregard everything else. And Lin caught the universal mirror and nodded with satisfaction after sensing its powerful aura. He put it away into his storage ring and decided to split the spoils later. Hand over your divine flame now. And Lin spoke again. Battle God Ziyang was infuriated. I've already tamed the great holy flame and fused it with me. How can I hand it over? And Lin didn't seem to care. Release your great holy flame and attack me directly. Release your source of fire as well. I won't fight back. Conceited. Arrogant. How was he supposed to snatch away a flame that had already been refined and recognized as its master? How was he supposed to not fight back in the face of a flame attack? Battle God Ziyang's expression flickered as he looked at Enlin. Finally, he gritted his teeth and made up his mind. Fine, you said it. Don't fight back no matter what. He was going to use this opportunity to burn this arrogant man to ashes. Great holy flame. Battle God Ziyang's eyes glowed with divine might as he released his great holy flame. The white flame brought with it a terrifying temperature and materialized into a scorching ball of fire. He opened his mouth, and the white ball of fire fused into the ball of fire. In an instant, almost everyone felt a suffocating pressure. PFFF. Battle God Ziyang's body seemed to be unable to withstand such a powerful attack, and he spat out another mouthful of blood. However, his eyes were bright as he stared intently at Enlin. Go! Following his command, the huge fireball crashed down toward Enlin with a terrifying might that seemed to be able to incinerate all things in its path. Even a battle sage at the pinnacle of the battle sage realm would be unable to block this attack. A concerned expression appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she stared at the figure before her. However, Enlin was excited as he ran toward the ball of fire and opened his mouth. Then, a peculiar scene unfolded. This ball of fire was as hot as the sun, and the flames flowed into Enlin's mouth like a river. The ball of fire became smaller and smaller. In the end, the white ball of fire seemed to want to escape, but Enlin's mouth was like a black hole, and it was sucked into his mouth. Gulp! Burp! Enlin rubbed his stomach in satisfaction. The word holy had appeared in the system's wings of true fire cultivation method. This divine flame tastes like a sesame seed cake. It's so hot, he commented. Xinyuan Cheng, Su Xiaolan, and the others all drew a sharp intake of breath as their eyes widened. This was the second time Su Qianyun had seen Enlin eat a divine flame, and her eyes were also glowing with excitement. Only Battle God Ziyang had been transformed into a statue. The great holy flame had been eaten, and the contract with the divine flame had been severed. He was completely dumbstruck by this scene. This is clearly my divine flame. How did it get swallowed? This doesn't make sense. What kind of logic is this? Won't he feel bloated if he eats it like this? Won't he burn himself? Am I dreaming? Who am I? Where am I? Battle God Ziyang's worldview crumbled, and he began to doubt his life. Enlin made his way toward Battle God Ziyang with a smile on his face. Thank you for your hospitality, Senior Ziyang. Do you have anything else you want to give me? Battle God Ziyang shuddered as he looked down at his naked body. The universal mirror had been stolen, and so had the divine flame. He had never been left with nothing before, and tears streamed down his face. I still have a pair of underwear left. Do you want it? Chapter 328. Enlin lowered his head and looked down at Battle God Ziyang's blue underwear. The material should be quite special. After all, it had survived a 10 million ton hydrogen bomb. Perhaps it was a divine tool. However, he still shook his head with a forgiving expression. Senior Ziyang, I understand the principle of leaving a way out for others. You should keep this underwear. Battle God Ziyang's lips twitched as he cursed in his heart. Leave a way out for others? F***CK. You're telling me to leave a way out for others? Sword Immortal Enlin. Is your face made of diamond? Then, Sword Immortal Enlin, can I go now? A smile tugged at the corners of Battle God Ziyang's lips. Enlin blinked. I only say I'll spare your life if you hand over the good stuff. I never said I'd let you go. F***CK. Battle God Ziyang's eyes widened in shock. He had underestimated Enlin's shamelessness. Don't worry. I just want to ask for some information. Enlin smiled at Battle God Ziyang before issuing an order to the two Gundams. Put an electromagnetic interrogation lock on Battle God Ziyang. Gundam 1 and Gundam 2 immediately whooshed to Battle God Ziyang's side. A series of dazzling electromagnetic rings wrapped themselves around Ziyang's neck, wrists, waist, and ankles. Well, what do you want to ask? A sense of humiliation welled up in Battle God Ziyang's heart. Enlin summoned Xinyuan Cheng and the others to surround him with malicious smiles on his face. Enlin spoke first. First question. Do you know the whereabouts of the other divine flames and divine weapons? Battle god Zi Yang shook his head. I don't know, but apparently they're all in the ancient barren realm. His voice had only just fallen when the electromagnetic rings around his body suddenly exploded with a terrifying electric current. Rumble. Zap, zap, zap. Countless electric currents coursed through his body, attacking all of his meridians. Battle god Zi Yang's eyes rolled into his head, and a puff of white smoke escaped his mouth. And Lin chuckled. The electromagnetic interrogation lock can detect if you're lying through your body's various indicators. Hee, a dishonest person like you should be electrocuted. Battle god Zi Yang was indescribably shocked. This was the power of high-tech demonic techniques? It was actually this terrifying. I'll ask you again. Tell me the whereabouts of the other divine flames and divine weapons. And Lin said again. Battle god Zi Yang had been frightened by the lightning, so he didn't dare to hide the truth this time. The setting moon flame resides at the bottom of the ocean near Giant Turtle Island. Sometimes it fuses with the seawater, and other times it gathers the seawater to form a flame. Taming it is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. As for the void flame, I only know that it's in the northern part of the ancient wasteland region. The divine weapon, the white radiant bead, is in the hands of Battle Goddess by Qion. As for the divine weapons, the Azure Ocean Sword and the Divine Thunder Badge, they only exist in legends. And Lin looked at the electromagnetic halo and saw that there was no reaction. He knew that Battle God Zi Yang wasn't lying and nodded in satisfaction. Battle God Zi Yang collapsed to the ground in exhaustion. His body was already severely injured, and his mind had also been severely shaken. Now that he was being electrocuted, how could he bear it? Of course, he was going to say what he wanted to say now. He would have to wait until he could survive. My second question, how much do you know about celestial immortal Shouyang? And Lin continued. Battle god Zi Yang didn't seem to be surprised by Lin's question. Celestial immortal Shouyang did appear in this world 1,000 years ago, or rather, he was just passing by. At the time, I had just become a battle god and was in high spirits. Who would have thought that I would be defeated by him with a single strike? At that moment, I knew that our cultivation bases weren't on the same level. He's the same as you guys in that he doesn't use battle chi. Instead, he uses other types of energy. He only appeared for a short while on the Zhanqi continent before disappearing without a trace. Apparently, the last time he appeared was in the northernmost region of the ancient wasteland realm. And Lin, Xianyuan Cheng, and the others all breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. The fact that celestial immortal Shouyang had appeared meant that they were on the right track. All they had to do now was to follow the clues and search for him. Xianyuan Cheng thought for a moment before asking, aside from us and celestial immortal Shouyang, have you seen any other outsiders? Ziyang shook his head. No. And Lin turned to everyone else. If you guys have any other questions, ask him while he's still weak. Ziyang. Hu Guan asked curiously, what material is your underwear made of? Ziyang's lips twitched, and he didn't want to speak. Then, boom, crackle, crackle, crackle. Another violent bolt of lightning flashed through the air. He frothed at the mouth, and his body convulsed. Only 3 words reverberated in his mind. Motherf asterisk her. My underwear is a heaven-rank protective item, the Pure Yang pants. It's soft and translucent, and it can automatically release the power of Pure Yang to protect its owner when they're in danger. It also has the effect of boosting one's sexual function, unblocking one's meridians, and condensing Yang energy. Battle God Ziyang replied with a dejected expression, and Lin was initially disdainful of this underwear, but the more he listened, the more he was tempted. Even Hu Guan and Yao Mingxi were staring at Battle God Ziyang's underwear with a scorching light in their eyes. Tears welled up in Battle God Ziyang's eyes. Don't tell me you're going to strip me of my underwear as well. Ahem. Classman Lin, let's not go too far. Xianyuan Cheng coughed lightly as he tried to dissuade him. As for Su Xiaolan and Su Qianyun, they had already turned their faces away as they couldn't bear to look at Lin's underwear. Marite, Senior Ziyang, You can swear a heavenly Tao oath that you won't do anything to us in the future. After that, you can go. And Lin thought for a moment before giving up on the idea of stripping Battle God Ziyang's underwear. Battle God Ziyang swore obediently. All he wanted to do now was to leave this accursed place as soon as possible. F***CK. If he waited any longer and these bastards changed their minds, then even his underwear would be snatched away. Senior Ziyang, farewell. And Lin waved his hand in farewell. Farewell, sword immortal and Lin. Battle God Ziyang nodded. Farewell, my ****. He didn't want to see this be ***TCH ever again. After the electromagnetic interrogation shackles were removed, he fled into the distance without looking back. He was extremely resolute and didn't want to take even a speck of dust with him. And Lin and the others all sighed with emotion as they watched him depart. After all, there was no one else on this continent who could suffer such a tragic fate. After that, they arrived at the site of the explosion. There was an indescribably massive crater there. Flames, smoke, and radiation were like malevolent demons that threatened to engulf heaven and earth. And Lin and the others didn't force their way to the center of the crater. Instead, they sent the 2 Gundams to clean up the mess. Sure enough, they brought out a sheathed long sword not long after. This was Battle God Su Ming's sword, one of the 5 divine weapons, the Dark Flash Sword. And Lin drew the long sword with interest, and a cold light instantly flashed through the air as black energy rippled through the air. There was a black beast carved onto the blade of the sword. This beast had the body of a lion and a pair of horns on its head. It looked a little like the legendary mythological beast, Bai Zhe. The weapons on the Zhanqi continent are usually forged based on the circulation of battle qi. If we want to use them, we'll have to modify them. However, these divine weapons can also be activated with vital energy. And Lin's eyes lit up as he spoke. He brought out the universal mirror, which could also be activated without any hindrance. The 5 divine weapons had clearly existed even before celestial immortal Shou Yang had arrived. This was a little intriguing, just as everyone was deep in thought, and Lin suddenly said, "That's right. These divine weapons are comparable to spirit tools and are extremely rare treasures. Why don't we split these 2 divine weapons here? Same old rules." He erased the insignia on the universal mirror and the dark flash sword before placing them on the ground. Everyone looked at one another. The rule that Lin was referring to was the rule of treasure hunting in the cultivation world. Only those who were fated to obtain the blood essence and the spirit tools would be able to obtain them. And Lin, Xinyuan Cheng, Yao Mingxi, Hu Guan, Su Xiaolan, and Su Qinyan all released a drop of blood essence, which hovered in midair. As they made a series of hand seals, the 6 drops of blood essence began to glow with a dazzling light. The 2 divine weapons on the ground suddenly began to tremble, as if they were drawn by some kind of power. The dark flash sword roared like a ferocious beast as it stood up straight. The universal mirror glowed with a black and white light before flying toward a certain direction. Chapter 329. And Lin looked at the 2 restless divine weapons and chanted in his heart, "Baby, baby, come here. Big brother will take you to flex and fly." The universe mirror moved. It glowed with a black and white light, and suddenly flew toward a drop of blood essence before swallowing it. Xinyuan Cheng smiled heartily. "Seeing as the universe mirror has chosen me as its master, I won't hold back then." Under everyone's envious and jealous gazes, Xinyuan Cheng solemnly refined the universal mirror before placing it into his pocket. Immediately afterward, the dark flash sword also moved. With a whoosh, it flew towards a certain drop of blood essence and let out a light cry of joy. Yao Mingxi looked at everyone with an apologetic expression before holding the sword in his hand. "Seniors, I'll be taking this as well. Take it, take it. This is your fate." And Lin waved his hand generously, but his heart ached to the extreme. F***CK. Was he not fated with treasures? He discovered that aside from the treasures he had snatched, none of his treasures were willing to accept him as their master. Even little Xie, who was already in the pot, was completely indifferent toward him. After distributing the divine weapons, everyone found a place to rest and wait for the changes in the outside world. A streak of white light flew across the night sky toward a small town on the border of Xianjing City. Lu Ziyu was brewing tea when the door was slammed open with a loud bang. His eyes widened as he looked at the naked man whose skin had been burned red and charred. His brain did not react for a moment. "What are you waiting for? Where are your clothes?" "Battle God," Ziyang yelled. Lu Ziyu, who had always been calm and collected, finally came to his senses and chuckled. "You're already in this state, but the first thing you want to do is not to heal yourself, but to put on some clothes? Shut the F***CK up. Hurry up and bring me some clothes." Even though the two of them were good friends, Battle God Ziyang was in no mood to chat with Lu Ziyu. Lu Ziyu brought out a new set of clothes and some healing pills before handing them over to Battle God Ziyang. TSK. Who would have thought that the most powerful cultivator on the Jiangxi continent would be reduced to his underwear? I don't even have the heart to ask you what happened. The royal advisor looked at Battle God Ziyang with a sympathetic expression. Battle God Ziyang, Lu Ziyu asked, "You lost the universe mirror too?" Battle God Ziyang, Lu Ziyu rubbed his forehead and continued, "I can't sense the power of the divine flame in your body. You've even lost the holy flame?" Battle God Ziyang, Lu Ziyu blinked his eyes and asked curiously, "Why is the underwear still here?" Tears welled up in Battle God Ziyang's eyes. "Didn't you just say that you couldn't bear to ask me what happened?" Lu Ziyu sighed again. "It's my fault. If it wasn't for the fact that my strength hasn't recovered yet, you wouldn't have encountered such a thing." Battle God Ziyang remained silent. "That explosion was released by Enlin?" Lu Ziyu asked again. Battle God Ziyang nodded. "Battle God Su Ming is dead?" Lu Ziyu asked. Battle God Ziyang nodded again. He had witnessed how Battle God Su Ming had been engulfed by the terrifying explosion and was reduced to dust. Fear still lingered in his heart when he thought back to that scene. The atmosphere was a little heavy. Lu Ziyu suddenly said, "But you came back alive, and you even have a pair of underwear. Looks like Sword Immortal and Lin is a reasonable person." Battle God Ziyang's mouth gaped open upon hearing this. He felt as if his heart had been stabbed once again. Leave a pair of underwear, stripping everything off and leaving only a pair of underwear for you. What a nice person. Battle God Ziyang was on the verge of a mental breakdown. "Please stop talking. I need some peace and quiet. One last thing. Celestial Immortal Shou Yang didn't help us, but we can clearly communicate with these people, so they definitely won't stay here. Are you sure you don't want to give it a try?" Lu Ziyu's expression became serious as he asked with a scorching gaze. The candlelight flickered and the light in the room flickered. Battle God Ziyang fell silent again. The next day, news of Battle God Su Ming's death spread like wildfire. The entire Jiangxi continent was in an unprecedented uproar. This was a truly shocking piece of news. Countless people were dumbfounded when they heard this news. Who was Battle God Su Ming? He was one of the three most powerful beings on the Jiangxi continent, the pillar of the continent. It collapsed just like that, and the impact it caused was simply earth-shattering. Soon, Enlin announced that he would take responsibility for this matter. He announced that anyone who disagreed with him was welcome to come to Jing Xian City and challenge him to a battle. This news, coupled with the news of Battle God Su Ming's death, created an earth-shattering uproar across the entire continent. The entire continent instantly erupted into a frenzy. From elderly people to children, all of whom were several hundred years old, everyone was extremely familiar with the name of Sword Immortal and Lin. I've long suspected that Battle God Su Ming's death had something to do with Sword Immortal and Lin, so it really was him. Who would have thought that Sword Immortal and Lin would possess such terrifying power? Wasn't their battle supposed to be held tomorrow? Why did it start yesterday? He probably couldn't wait any longer. I heard from someone at the scene that Sword Immortal and Lin threw a sun at him and razed the entire Jing Xian mountain to the ground. Battle God Su Ming also died in the blink of an eye. Holy F***CK. How the F***CK can a human do that? This power has already exceeded the realm of our understanding. Sword Immortal Enlin is truly terrifying. I think he should be called Battle God Enlin now. The Ao Exian Empire is going to have a new ruler, just as the entire continent was in an uproar. 6 people were strolling through the Ao Exian Imperial Palace as if they were strolling through their backyard. All of the imperial family members and officials were trembling with fear in fear of angering them. They had already issued a notice to the entire continent stating, "I'll be waiting for you here." This sentence, which came out of nowhere, was obviously a message. Once the separated teammates heard it, they would naturally understand. The 6 of them kept a low profile in the Imperial Palace and didn't engage in any killings. They only gathered high-ranking officials and Imperial family members to gather some information before entering the library and flipping through the books. History books, geography books, cultivation methods, knowledge. The Zhanqi continent is very young with only a little over 10,000 years of recorded history. The most powerful being on the continent is the Battle God. Including Battle God Su Ming, there have only been 4 battle gods in the Ao Exian Empire, Su Xiaolan said slowly as she flipped through the pages with her slender fingers. Where are the other 3 battle gods? Enlin asked. Su Xiaolan replied, "The first battle god died of old age. We haven't found any records of the second battle god, and the third battle god died at the hands of battle goddess Bai Qiong." Enlin nodded and continued to flip through the books in an attempt to find clues about the Shouyang tomb. Before they knew it, 3 days had passed. Enlin and the others could only find one sentence regarding the Shouyang tomb. That was, Celestial Immortal Shouyang met with the 3 battle gods before heading north. This information was even less than what Battle God Ziyang had provided them, so they were a little disappointed. However, they did learn a lot from their research on cultivation methods. In particular, there were many similarities between the usage of battle chi and vital energy, so everyone was able to glean a lot of insights from this research. Just as Enlin and the others were flipping through the books in the library, a piece of news suddenly traveled over from the Xiling Empire. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong invited Enlin to the Xiling Imperial Palace for a chat. Chapter 330. Why is Battle Goddess Bai Qiong looking for me? Enlin was dumbfounded upon seeing this. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips. Why else? She just wants to admire Enlin's majesty. You're right. Enlin nodded with a serious expression. Su Xiaolan, is your face thicker than the ground? Xinyuan Cheng pondered for a moment. Could her sudden invitation have something to do with Lu Qianhuan and the others? Su Xiaolan nodded. That makes sense. With Lu Qianhuan's combat prowess, there aren't many people on the entire continent who can do anything to her. There's no way that she hasn't done anything for so many days. I'm guessing that the remaining 4 are stuck in the Xiling Empire. Let's go. There's nothing else to do here anyway. Let's go to the Xiling Empire and see the legendary Snake Spirit Clan. Enlin was extremely curious about the Snake Spirit Clan on this continent. This was a good opportunity to learn more about them. After a brief discussion, everyone decided to set off and ask the Great Empress about Celestial Immortal Shouyang. 6 figures flew out of the Imperial Palace and toward the Xiling Empire. Then, they encountered an old acquaintance in the sky. A purple-robed, middle-aged man bowed to everyone with a warm smile on his face. It was said that a man who had been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Enlin and the others almost couldn't recognize the man standing before them. Battle God Ziyang couldn't possibly be this handsome. Wasn't he supposed to be the pervert who only wore underwear and was covered in red and black from head to toe? Who was he more handsome than? The corners of Battle God Ziyang's lips twitched at the sight of everyone's astonished expressions. Hee, what a coincidence to meet all of you here, Battle God Ziyang said with a smile. Everyone's face darkened. Big brother, don't lie through your teeth. Which idiot rushed to the front of the flight path to stop people? They weren't blind. What a coincidence. What can I do for you, Mr. Ziyang? And Lin decided to give Battle God Ziyang some face. After all, he had bullied Battle God Ziyang so badly in the past. Yes, I want to cooperate with you. Battle God Ziyang spoke with a solemn expression. As long as you can help me transcend this world and give me a chance to advance further, I'm willing to do my best to help you in this world. A combat Darch-level helper had obviously moved in Lin and the others. And Lin looked at Battle God Ziyang. We found an exit, but you might not be able to pass through it. Battle God Ziyang's expression was firm. It's all right. I'm still willing to give it a try. Moreover, there's no energy like Battle Chi in the outside world, and Lin added. This time, Battle God Ziyang was clearly dumbstruck. He had relied on the energy system of Battle Chi to reach this level of life. However, and Lin's words meant that he was going to abandon his Battle Chi and cultivate from the beginning again after arriving in another world. It was like throwing a fish from the sea into the desert. It would either become a dead fish or a salted fish. Senior Ziyang, you don't necessarily need to change your cultivation environment to make a breakthrough in your Tao. You can still advance further in the Zhanqi continent. You need to have confidence in yourself. Although Xin Yuan Cheng also hoped to receive a combat Thearch's help, he didn't approve of Ziyang taking the risk to go to another world. However, Battle God Ziyang smiled upon hearing this. My cultivation base has stagnated for several hundred years, and I can't find a way out. I've decided I still want to give it a try. And Lin and the others didn't try to dissuade Battle God Ziyang anymore. It wasn't a bad idea to bring this combat Darch along. As for loyalty and whatnot, Battle God Ziyang had already sworn an oath to the heavenly Tao, so Lin and the others weren't worried. The 7 streaks of light flew east, traversing over mountains and ridges. Before they knew it, they had already flown into the territory of the Snake Spirit Empire. And Lin finally saw the legendary Snake Spirit tribe. They were about the same size as humans, with the tail of a snake and the body of a human. Some even had a pair of fleshy wings on their backs, and their hair was also of all different colors. The cultivation aptitude of the Snake Spirit tribe is about the same as that of humans, but their physical constitution is more powerful than that of humans. They are about 3 times stronger than normal humans, and their lifespans are also twice that of normal humans. Battle God Ziyang looked down at the Snake Spirit tribe with an indifferent expression. At his cultivation base, he didn't care about whether these lowly soldiers were trash or trash. These Snake Spirit tribe look like the divine snakes of our continent. Regardless of whether it's their appearance or their internal attributes, they're all extremely similar to those divine snakes. Xin Yuan Cheng looked down at the Snake Spirit tribe with astonishment. Is that strange? And Lin was perplexed. Su Xiaolan smiled. The divine snakes are closely related to Her Majesty Nuwa. They're extremely rare and revered on the Tai Chu continent. Xin Yuan Cheng. But here, the Snake Spirit tribe occupies a third of the continent. And Lin, he could understand Big Brother Chang's feelings a little. If the Snake Spirit tribe and the divine snake were the same species, then it would indeed be a pain in the ass. For example, on Earth, pandas were extremely precious and rare. However, when there were suddenly a few billion pandas, then it would be a pain in the ass. Perhaps a war would erupt between the Beastmen and the Beastmen. The Spirit Snake Imperial Palace was located at the center of the Spirit Snake Empire. All of the buildings were constructed from green spirit jade. The entire palace was green, and it gave off a very peculiar feeling. The 6 streaks of light flew straight into the Spirit Snake Imperial Palace without encountering any obstructions. It was as if the path had been opened in advance. Lin was a little nervous. He was about to face the most powerful being on the entire continent, Battle Goddess Bai Qiong. After reading through some ancient texts, he knew that 2 battle gods had died at the hands of Battle Goddess Bai Qiong. One had to realize that in a battle between battle gods, they could still run if they couldn't win. However, she still managed to kill 2 battle gods. What did this prove? This proved that she was at the pinnacle even among battle gods. As a woman, she was super fierce. Battle God Ziyang followed beside Lin, but this didn't alleviate much of the pressure on him. After all, his first impression of Battle God Ziyang was far too low. Lin and the others stepped into the palace respectfully. When they saw the regal and powerful battle goddess Bai Qiong, they were all rooted to the spot in a daze. A young woman in a white dress was sitting on the throne. She was munching on a fragrant spirit fruit, and her cheeks were puffed up. She looked extremely adorable. Her appearance was very delicate and pretty. She had a very beautiful oval face, and her skin was as white as sheep fat jade. Her body was as soft as a willow twig by the lake, and her black hair fluttered in the wind like a painting. "Ah, Senior Poison Lord, you're finally here." The young woman's clear eyes lit up, and she ran toward Lin. She hugged him excitedly with a sweet and obedient smile on her face. Everyone was still in a daze, and Lin swallowed. "White Spirit Snake, you're battle goddess by Qiong? Are you kidding me? The renowned #1 cultivator on the Jiangxi continent. Is this noob of a 7th-stage Dao body?" And Lin and the others were trying their best to accept this reality. At this moment, White Spirit Snake took a step back. She shook her head with a grin. "What are you talking about? I'm not battle goddess by Qiong." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Thank God, this world was still normal. And Lin also patted his chest. "White Spirit Snake, don't scare me like that. My heart isn't good. Don't sit on the great Empress throne next time." Battle God Ziyang was quite curious. He had seen Battle Goddess by Qiong a long time ago and knew that White Spirit Snake wasn't the great Empress. However, why was this little girl sitting on the great Empress throne so casually? This was clearly not normal. That's all right. I'll call little Qing over right now." White Spirit Snake pursed her lips and whistled a loud and clear whistle. Soon, a peerlessly beautiful woman in a jade dress drifted into the hall. Upon seeing White Spirit Snake, she transformed into a small green snake and wrapped herself around White Spirit Snake's slender arm. It was as if she was extremely attached to White Spirit Snake. "Let me introduce you guys. This is my beast pet, little Qing. Also known as Battle Goddess by Qiong." White Spirit Snake stroked little Qing's green head with a smug smile. "Huh." The hall instantly fell silent. Xinyuan Cheng and the others stared at White Spirit Snake, dumbstruck, and Lin clutched his chest. He was on the verge of vomiting blood. White Spirit Snake wasn't Battle Goddess by Qiong. However, Battle Goddess by Qiong was her beast pet. What the F***CK? This is even more shocking. This is fake, right? This is all an illusion, right? As for Ziyang, who had once seen the domineering Battle Goddess by Qiong, he had already knelt down. Chapter 331. Battle Goddess by Qiong was White Spirit Snake's beast pet, and Lin took a long time to recover from his shock. White Spirit Snake held onto his hand and led him to a quiet room at the side of the palace. "I know you all find this hard to believe. To be honest, I was also shocked when I found out about this." White Spirit Snake chuckled as she looked at the breathless crowd, and Lin felt like he couldn't look at this newbie anymore. Senior White, why did you pretend to be a newbie to make us happy?" Senior Poison Lord, please don't call me that. I'm still the same White Spirit Snake." White Spirit Snake instantly panicked upon hearing Lin's words. "I only made little Qing acknowledge me as her master because of a certain mark. You could just call me Little Bai from now on." And Lin looked at the beautiful woman in front of him and was momentarily at a loss for what to do. Call her Little Bai? What would happen to Debai's children in the future? "Oh, you're that sword immortal in Lin?" Battle Goddess by Qiong, who was wrapped around White Spirit Snake's arm, widened her eyes and asked curiously in an extremely dignified tone. Before Lin could reply, White Spirit Snake smacked Battle Goddess by Qiong's head. "Little Qing, don't be rude. You have to call him Senior Poison Lord." "Oh." Qing, she was a little indignant, but she still gave in. "Senior Poison Lord, I didn't expect you to kill that void underworld cultivator. You're so awesome." Battle God Ziyang wiped the cold sweat off his forehead upon hearing Battle Goddess by Qiong's words. However, Lin was the type to get cocky whenever someone praised him. He immediately replied humbly, "It's nothing much. At the end of the day, I still made use of the power of technology." His first sentence was quite normal, but he couldn't control himself anymore. At the time, Battle God Su Ming and Battle God Ziyang were both present. "I flattened Jing Xian Mountain with one strike and killed Void Underworld Cultivator. However, Ziyang was only severely injured and managed to survive." Sigh. It wasn't easy for Ziyang to cultivate, but he was still able to block my attack. My heart softened and I let him go. I'm so ashamed. Ziyang almost jumped up and cursed. She praised you for killing a void underworld cultivator. So why did you have to drag me into this? Forget about dragging me into this. Why did you have to drag me into this? Su Xiaolan and the others rolled their eyes as they stared speechlessly at Enlin flexing. Talk about this? Why did Enlin sound so smug? Battle Goddess by Qiong's eyes lit up upon hearing this. She had heard about Battle God Su Ming, but she didn't know that Battle God Ziyang was also involved. She looked toward Battle God Ziyang with a thoughtful expression. White Spirit Snake's thoughts were pure and simple-minded, and she kept on praising Senior Poison Lord for his peerless powers. Enlin continued to reply with a humble expression. After that, Enlin asked White Spirit Snake about the whereabouts of the other team members, and all of them were overjoyed by the results. After that, Enlin asked White Spirit Snake about the whereabouts of the other team members. They were all elated. Within the restricted area of the Imperial Palace, the all-encompassing pond, the three of them sat with their legs crossed. The all-encompassing pond has the miraculous effect of tempering one's body and mind. Big Sister Lu and Big Brother Tang were injured during their fight with Little Qing and are currently recovering in the all-encompassing pond. Tian Lingling is also bathing in the pond and still doesn't want to come out. White Spirit Snake explained as they walked. Enlin nodded. He knew about this as well. Tang Shimin and Lu Qianhuan had failed to negotiate with the Great Empress earlier, and they immediately engaged in battle, thereby placing them at a complete disadvantage. After that, White Spirit Snake's seal reacted with the divine weapon, the White Radiant Bead, which prevented the battle and allowed her to take in a beast pet. According to Battle Goddess by Qiong, White Spirit Snake was the person she had been waiting for. Enlin felt a sense of unease when he heard this. He thought back to his last trip to the tomb and the fear of being dominated by Su Xiaolan. Was he going to be dominated by a newbie this time? No, he had to fight back. A determined expression appeared on Enlin's face. He had to collect the mutant. Tui, divine flames. In the all-encompassing pond, sure enough, he saw the three of them happily bathing in the pond. Unfortunately, they had all been separated in separate areas by the green jade, and they had already put on their clothes when they came out, so there was nothing to see. Fake Taoist priest, you're finally here. I heard you've been doing quite well recently. Tian Lingling's hair was still dripping with water droplets, and she wanted to pounce on Enlin like a lowly tiger. However, she then realized that there seemed to be quite a few people around them, and she forced herself to restrain herself. It's nothing much. I only defeated the most bad *SS in the AO Xian Empire. Enlin ruffled Tian Lingling's hair as he spoke modestly. Lu Qianhuan and Tang Shimin also walked over, and relaxed smiles appeared on their faces upon seeing their team members. In this strange world, the team members had finally gathered together, and there was always a lot to talk about. When they started talking about the four divine flames, Lu Qianhuan and the others were all given a fright upon learning that Enlin had eaten 2 of the divine flames. For once, Lu Qianhuan's mind was working normally, and she asked about the taste of the divine flames with curiosity. Enlin felt as if he had met a soulmate, so he naturally didn't hide anything. Thus, the strawberry-flavored demonic star flame and the spicy sesame-flavored great holy flame became everyone's first impressions of the divine flames. Battle God Ziyang was constantly being bombarded by Enlin. How could he not know that the great holy flame was spicy sesame-flavored? He felt so depressed, and he wanted to leave this place. Then, his wish came true. Enlin took him away. All the team members were very interested in the all-encompassing pond and wanted to bathe there for a few more days. Hence, Enlin dragged Battle God Ziyang along with him and started absorbing the setting moon flame during this time. The Blue Sea was the inland sea between the Beihong Empire and the Snake Spirit Empire. The sea was vast and boundless, and there was no land on the other side of the sea as far as the eye could see. A gigantic island floated on the surface of the sea. It looked like a giant tortoise, hence the name Giant Tortoise Island. A black streak and a white streak flew over from a distance. Then, they stopped directly above the giant turtle island. Oh, this island isn't bad. The setting moon flame is at the bottom of the sea below this island? And Lin asked. Battle god Ziyang nodded. That's right. There's a chance that it will appear when the moonlight shines on this ocean. TSK, what a character. I just don't know what it tastes like. And Lin was getting a little excited. Battle god Ziyang, I really don't understand how you can swallow so many types of divine flames. If I did that, my body would definitely explode and I would die. But you're able to absorb the elegance and taste of the divine flames. Battle god Ziyang couldn't help but blur out his thoughts. And Lin didn't hide anything. Hee, have you heard of the flame mantra? Flame mantra? Battle god Ziyang blinked in confusion. It's a very ancient cultivation method from the Tai Chu continent. It allows one to evolve by continuously absorbing divine flames. In the end, multiple types of divine flames can be combined to create an earth-shattering technique. And Lin explained with a mysterious expression. Battle god Ziyang's eyes widened. He was completely dumbfounded. All right, let's go take a stroll around the island now. We'll go look for the setting moon flame when the moon comes out at night. And Lin didn't dwell on this topic. He patted Ziyang's shoulder and descended onto the giant turtle island with a carefree expression. Battle god Ziyang trailed behind Lin, and his heart was in complete turmoil from Lin's words. Flame mantra? This world sure is big. It even has such a mysterious and powerful cultivation method. I can't be a frog in a well anymore and be trapped in a continent. I must go out. Chapter 332. On Giant Turtle Island, a blue-winged dragon flew through the air, uprooting all the trees in its wake. Raging heavenly flames. Another loud roar sounded as golden flames suddenly swept toward the winged dragon. The flames were so fast that the Battle Emperor rank winged dragon didn't even have a chance to react before it was completely engulfed by the flames and was unable to escape. Boom! The flames suddenly exploded with a terrifying heat and then turned into a rain of fire. It was a beautiful sight to behold. A fully cooked body fell from the sky, creating an extremely alluring sight. As expected of Battle God Ziyang, your flame techniques are truly eye-opening, and Lin praised happily as he sucked the blue-winged dragon's body toward him with his suction palm. Battle God Ziyang didn't want to say anything. He glared at Lin. He was used to using fire-type spell techniques, but he could only pretend to have a divine flame now. Who could understand his frustration? And Lin smacked his lips involuntarily as he looked down at the winged dragon beneath him. He was very interested in the food on the Zhanxi continent, especially Battle Emperor rank beasts. He had wanted to taste them for a long time. Come, let's eat together. He tore off a roasted dragon wing and ate as he invited Lin to join him. The dragon wing tasted very good. The skin was crispy and charred while the meat inside was tender and springy. There was even a hint of sweetness to it, making it impossible for one to stop eating. Battle God Ziyang didn't hold back and tore off a large dragon leg before devouring it in large mouthfuls. Battle Emperor rank beasts were rare even on the entire Zhanxi continent, so the two of them had a great time eating. The sun gradually sank below the surface of the ocean as a bright moon appeared in the night sky. Giant Turtle Island began to quiet down. Only the sound of the waves continued to echo in the air. And Lin looked up at the bright moon in the night sky. It was as white as snow and exuded a cold light. It was as if the moon had remained the same for the past few days, round and flawless. Let's go into the ocean, Battle God Ziyang suddenly said. And Lin nodded. Lead the way. Whoosh whoosh. Two streaks of light shot into the ocean, creating a huge splash. Battle God Ziyang was like a pig diving into the sea, sending huge waves crashing into the sea. And Lin dived into the water like a bird pecking at its prey, stirring up waves. It was clear who was superior. The moonset flame is a blue flame. It appears and disappears extremely quickly. Remember to engulf it as soon as possible, Battle God Ziyang cautioned. He had wanted to add extremely difficult to tame, but when he recalled the scene of Lin swallowing the great sun god flame, he swallowed his words. Lin looked around. It was dark at the bottom of the sea. If a flame appeared, it would be very conspicuous. Suddenly, the two of them focused their gazes in a certain direction. There is a large expanse of blue light that pierced through the boundless darkness at the bottom of the sea, appearing extremely dazzling. Go! Enlin and battle god Ziyang charged toward the blue light without any hesitation. The blue light seemed to have sensed something and quickly faded away. Rumble. By the time Enlin and battle god Ziyang arrived at the scene of the battle, there was only a faint blue ember that was quickly engulfed by darkness. My God, it really disappeared for no reason? Enlin's eyes widened as he surveyed his surroundings, but he couldn't find any trace of it. It was as if it really had appeared out of thin air and then disappeared into thin air. Battle god Ziyang heaved a forlorn sigh. The moonset flame can fuse into the sea and can be destroyed at will. Battle god Su Ming tried to capture it several hundred times, but to no avail, let alone refine it, and Lin didn't give up. Instead, he surveyed his surroundings even more intently. All of a sudden, a huge blue flaming palm appeared beside Enlin and slammed toward him with a frosty flame power. Enlin reacted extremely quickly. He immediately opened his mouth and activated his wings of true fire cultivation method. Boom! Gulp! The flame was engulfed, along with a stomach full of salty seawater. Cough cough! F*CK. This smell! Enlin yelled as he clutched his stomach. Battle god Ziyang was startled upon seeing this. He thought that an accident had occurred. What is it? Are you all right? This flame is a little sweet, like ice cream, but it's mixed with the salty taste of the seawater, which severely affects the taste. Enlin complained with dissatisfaction. Battle god Ziyang. Ziyang couldn't take it anymore. Everyone else was talking about how terrifying and powerful the divine flame was. But Enlin was talking about how it tasted. How could they even have a normal conversation on this day? Also, what was ice cream? But this moonset flame is quite interesting. It can even attack people of its own volition. I wonder where the source of the flame is. Enlin muttered with excitement in his eyes. Ziyang shook his head. The divine flame doesn't have much intelligence. You can think of it as an instinctive reaction. It was probably trying to expel you just then. If you appear too powerful, it might back down and not dare to come out. You mean we should pretend to be weak first? Enlin's eyes lit up. Ziyang nodded. That's right, but we can't be too weak either. If the moonset flame wants to unleash a powerful attack, the source of the flame will definitely appear. When that happens, you'll have to find an opportunity to eat it. Ziyang had already tacitly agreed with Enlin. He no longer talked about swallowing and refining the divine flame. Instead, he talked about eating it. So, it's a competition of acting skills? Don't worry, I'm good at this. Enlin laughed confidently. The moonset flame seemed to be disgusted by their appearance at the bottom of the ocean, and it launched its second wave of attacks. Rumble. This time, there were 10 huge fists of blue flames. Enlin didn't activate his wings of true fire cultivation technique anymore. Instead, he chose to engage in melee combat. Fists collided. Boom, boom, boom. Powerful collisions of energy caused the ocean to churn. The blue flames crashed into Enlin's hand, and he felt a bone-chilling cold. His skin had turned bright red, clearly a result of burns. Enlin wailed in pain as he stumbled back in retreat. Battle god Ziyang was also struck by the huge fists of blue flames. His acting skills were even more awkward than most male idols, and his lips curled into an exaggerated smile as he wailed in pain. Full marks for his acting skills. Full marks for his acting skills. The moonset flame's confidence was greatly boosted after the fists of blue flames took effect. A terrifying wave of energy surged from the bottom of the ocean. Immediately afterward, several hundred huge fists of 30 feet each hurtled toward Enlin and battle god Ziyang like meteors. Pegasus flaming meteor fists. Enlin's flesh crawled as he stared at the densely packed fists of flames. How could the moonset flame be so powerful? Rumble. Several hundred fists of blue flames rained down with unstoppable force, and Enlin wailed in pain as his face contorted in agony. The power of extreme frost, the terrifying power, and the dense barrage of attacks. And Lin was completely overwhelmed by all of this, and he was forced to stumble back and retreat. Holy F asterisk CK. He's too powerful. Battle God Ziyang turned to look at Lin, and a sense of admiration instantly welled up in his heart. This Lin was truly a godly being. Even his acting skills were superb. Look at that expression of terror and pain. Look at that contorted body. TSK, TSK, TSK. It's too realistic. He really couldn't compare. And Lin was on the verge of tears. What was the point of acting? He was unleashing such a terrifying attack, and he was acting as himself. And Lin and Battle God Ziyang were completely powerless to retaliate, but they managed to survive thanks to their cockroach-like vitality. The moonset flame was also unleashed, and the water in the ocean suddenly began to tremble violently. Boom! 99 gigantic flaming dragons appeared at the bottom of the ocean. They formed a gigantic killing formation, and the blue flames lit up the dark ocean as if it were daytime. The terrifying power of the flames swept toward Lin and Battle God Ziyang with an overwhelming force. A speck of blue flames, as dazzling as the stars, appeared nearby. This was the moonset flame's main body. It was clear that it was going to get serious. And Lin had been beaten black and blue, and he was already fuming with rage. When he saw the main body of the flame appear, he immediately unleashed all his power and charged toward it. Divine Inspection Technique. First technique, Wind Sword. Wings of Wind. Origin energy of the Netherworld. And Lin's aura surged, and his speed was so fast that it was impossible to follow with the naked eye. He smashed through one of the flaming dragons in front of him, and the seawater around him was torn into a vacuum by his terrifying power. Holy F asterisk CK. So fast. Battle God Ziyang was also startled by Lin's terrifying speed, and he couldn't help but swear. Before the moonset flame could even react, and Lin had already appeared in front of it. Then, it was greeted by the sight of a gargantuan mouth that drew closer and closer before transforming into a vast expanse of darkness. Gulp. After swallowing the moonset flame, Lin immediately canceled the origin energy of the Netherworld and swallowed a blood spirit pill. Only then did he recover. A moon character began to appear on the wings of True Fire cultivation method. Divine Flame, Moonset Flame, successfully collected. Chapter 333. After the setting moon flame was devoured, the remaining flaming dragons dissipated. And Lin returned victorious, and Battle God Ziyang followed behind him. He was still in shock. Firstly, he was shocked by Lin's astounding acting skills. Secondly, he was shocked by the flame mantra. Who would have thought that even the setting moon flame, a divine flame that was so difficult to refine, could be devoured in one gulp? Thirdly, he was shocked by Lin's explosive speed. He had never seen a man as fast as him. Ziyang, take me back. I need digest first. I'm a little bloated, and Lin suddenly said. Battle God Ziyang grimaced. Could flames really fill one's stomach? However, he didn't say anything else. He silently carried Lin back toward the Shi-Ling Empire. Lin wasn't bloated. He was suffering from the aftereffects of using the origin energy of the Netherworld. Even though he had only used it for a short period of time and swallowed a blood spirit pill, the aftereffects were still very strong. In any case, Lin was too lazy to move, so he let Ziyang do it himself. Inside the Shi-Ling Empire's imperial palace, the all-encompassing pool, Tian Lingling and Lu Qianhuan used their magically modified phones and battled fiercely in the League of Valor World. The water in the pool was warm and comfortable. They soaked in a hot spring while playing with their phones. It was an extremely enjoyable experience. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong transformed into her human form. Her flawless body could be vaguely seen amidst the drifting white mist. She moved closer to the two of them, and her dignified features were filled with curiosity. Why is it that the minions you control are the same as hers, but there's such a huge difference in power? This was the first time she had witnessed their battle, and she couldn't help but ask Lu Qianhuan. Because my character is of the soul formation stage, and her character is of the Tao body stage. She hasn't reached the Tao body stage yet, so there's a huge difference in power. Lu Qianhuan replied with a serious expression. Tian Lingling on the other side, in a men's hot spring area that was separated by a green jade wall. Xin Yuan Cheng and Yao Mingxi were studying the divine weapons in their hands with great interest. Hu Guan and Tang Shimin could only stare blankly at this scene as a sense of suffocation welled up in their hearts. Battle God Ziyang brought Enlin back to the imperial palace. Enlin also jumped into the all-encompassing pond with a plop in order to recover the energy he had expended. I've already completed 3/4 of the Divine Flame project. Now, I just need to obtain the Heavenly Void Flame, and I'll be able to refine a divine cultivation technique and dominate the world. Enlin's bold declaration dealt another heavy blow to Hu Guan and Tang Shimin. Other clans wanted divine weapons and divine flames, so what were they doing here? Traveling? No, I have to show some results. Hu Guan and Tang Shimin made up their minds. Battle God Ziyang didn't go to the myriad phenomenon pond. Instead, he was sipping tea in a quiet room. Not long after, a woman in a green imperial robe strolled over. Her jet black hair was coiled up on her head, and it was still slightly damp. She was graceful and luxurious, and there was a natural dignity in her gaze. Battle Goddess by Qiong, I want to talk to you alone for a long time. When Ziyang saw the newcomer, a smile appeared on his face. He immediately poured another cup of tea and placed it on the table. A faint smile appeared on Bai Qiong's face. She took a sip of the fragrant tea and got straight to the point. Have you decided to leave this continent? That's right. I can't see a future in this world. It's time for me to move to another place to develop. Battle God Ziyang smiled with a hint of melancholy. Then, he turned his gaze toward Bai Qiong. You're also leaving this place, right? Bai Qiong nodded. I'll go wherever Master goes. Battle God Ziyang. For some reason, he felt a deep sense of dissonance when he heard this. Even now, he still found it difficult to view Battle Goddess by Qiong and White Spirit Snake's beast pet, Little Qing, as the same existence. Bai Qiong ignored Ziyang's expression and continued. This is quite interesting. In the blink of an eye, one of the 3 most powerful beings on this continent has died, and 2 have left. Battle God Ziyang sighed. I'm actually reluctant to leave this continent. My clansmen and friends are here. However, I don't know if I'm right to say this. The Battle Chi energy system is very likely incorrect. It can't support us to reach a higher cultivation level. You've lived for close to 10,000 years, so you should know this better than I do, right? Bai Qiong chuckled. That's right. I could be considered the oldest battle god on this continent, so I know this better than you. However, since we're about to leave, there's no harm in telling you some things that you don't know. Oh, what things? Battle God Ziyang's interest was instantly piqued. Bai Qiong's green eyes became extremely profound. She looked at the vast expanse of heaven and earth outside the door and said softly, This continent is constantly changing. The Battle Chi energy is becoming more and more active. She flipped her slender hand through the air, and the sky within a radius of 1.5 kilometers suddenly darkened. Dark clouds surged and thunder rumbled. It was as if she were the ruler of all things. Battle God Ziyang was a little dazed as he gazed at this godlike technique. This is the wind lightning technique. 10,000 years ago, when I unleashed the wind lightning technique at full power, its power was only 1/3 of what is now. Battle Goddess by Qiong spoke slowly. Compared to before, I'm not that much more powerful. It's just that the energy we use has changed. From coarse to refined, it's become more compatible with the heavenly Tao. Vital energy is the foundation of a universe, and the only energy recognized by the heavenly Tao. However, Battle Chi is also on the path of transcendence. Under the guidance of some kind of will, perhaps it'll open up a new path. Battle God Ziyang's body trembled slightly. This information was far too shocking. Battle Chi is the fundamental energy of this continent. It will gradually become more complete. That's right. It's being guided by some kind of will. In my opinion, that's the case. Interesting, but I still feel uncomfortable. Bai Qiong smiled indifferently. Regardless of what kind of existence that will is, as long as I'm still me, it doesn't matter. Battle God Ziyang fell silent for a moment before nodding. That's true. In the future, there may be existences that are even more powerful than battle gods on this continent. However, I can't wait any longer. I still have to leave. All right, if that's the case, I won't say anything more. Bai Qiong placed a book on the table. Battle God Ziyang's eyes widened as he looked at the book. There were a few large words on the cover of the book, on the transformation between battle chi energy life forms and vital energy life forms. This should be of some help to you after you leave this place. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong pushed the book toward Battle God Ziyang. I'll be Master White's bodyguard for 10 years. This isn't too much to ask, is it? Battle God Ziyang's expression faltered slightly. He looked at the book before him before gritting his teeth and agreeing. There was a melancholic expression on his face as he held the book. He was a mighty battle god, but he had to become a bodyguard for a little girl? Sigh. Why was he regressing? However, after thinking about it, the most powerful being on this continent, Battle Goddess Bai Qiong, had become a pet beast of a little girl. It didn't seem like there was anything shameful about him becoming a bodyguard. Soon, everyone finished recuperating. Everyone in Lin's team, along with the two battle gods, started flying toward the ancient barren realm in the north of the continent to officially begin their search for the Shouyang tomb. Chapter 334. The ancient barren realm was the most dangerous place on the Zhanqi continent. There were the most hostile environments and the most powerful, ferocious beasts. The 5 divine weapons and 4 divine flames all came from the ancient barren realm. A natural black miasma separated the ancient barren realm from this world. Boom! 9 streaks of light broke through the miasma and entered a brand new world. Tian Lingling and White Spirit Snake sat on Lin's black brick. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong was still in her little green snake form, and she was lazily coiled around White Spirit Snake's arm. She was like the most exquisite pendant, and she gave White Spirit Snake a different kind of beauty. There were many strange plants growing on this black land. They were all purplish black and were extremely poisonous. Most of them would actively devour the ferocious beasts that passed by. The number of ferocious beasts that were devoured by the plants was definitely no less than the number of ferocious beasts. Lin and the others were attacked by all kinds of ferocious beasts as soon as they entered. There were swarms of venomous lightning bees, powerful and violent flying dragons, and even huge flowers that spat venom into the sky like cannons. However, all of them were burned to death without exception. Battle God Ziyang, the number 1 fighter in Lin's team, was not an undeserved reputation. He burned every enemy he saw. Not even a blade of grass remained in his path. He was extremely domineering. The ancient barren realm is divided into an outer and inner circle. The outer circle is where all kinds of ferocious beasts are active, while the inner circle is filled with perils. The divine weapons, divine lightning sword, divine lightning token, and divine flame, heavenly void flame are all said to be in the inner circle of the ancient barren realm. Battle God Ziyang explained as he fought. And Lin was confused. According to what you're saying, the inner circle shouldn't be that big, right? It's such a small area, yet you battle gods haven't finished looting it? Ziyang glanced at Lin. That's because it's very dangerous. Even I might not be able to come out alive after entering. Why would I take such a risk? At that time, I would have the great holy flame, and I would be satisfied. Saying this, he glanced at Lin with resentment. Lin didn't say anything. He laughed and turned his gaze elsewhere to enjoy the scenery. After flying for a few more hours, there was a dense snowflake in the distance, like a curtain falling from the sky, constantly surging. We'll arrive at the inner region of the ancient barren realm after passing through this barrier of wind and snow. Be careful, everyone. Battle God Ziyang suddenly warned. When they were in the outer circle, he could guarantee everyone's safety by himself. He could even treat this as a form of entertainment. However, once they reached the inner region of the ancient wasteland region, he wouldn't be able to make any promises. because even he might perish there. Everyone became more alert upon hearing this. And Lin even gave the shield of promised victory to Tian Lingling so that she could carry it with her. After all, this little lowly's safety factor was the lowest. If she encountered a battle sage-level desolate beast, she would die. As for White Spirit Snake, the newbie who once needed protection the most, she had already ascended to the heavens. As for Little Qing's pendant, who knew who she was, passing through the white curtain of snow, what came into view was a pure white world. The ground was covered in white snow, and in the distance was a stretch of snowy mountains. Even the sky was a vast expanse of white. Gasp! It's so cold. White Spirit Snake shivered. The temperature here was extremely low, and it was as if the air had been frozen. There was no wind, only absolute tranquility. A streak of green light suddenly enveloped White Spirit Snake. Little Qing had made a move. Thank you, Little Qing. Protect Big Sister Lingling as well, White Spirit Snake said with a pure smile. Me too, me too. And Lin also wanted to test Battle Goddess by Qiong's abilities. Whoosh! Another streak of green light enveloped Tian Lingling, completely ignoring Enlin. Green Spirit Snake shot a disdainful glance at Enlin. Her gaze was clearly saying, F***CK off. Enlin grimaced, and he sighed in exasperation. White Spirit Snake covered her mouth and chuckled lightly upon seeing Enlin's awkward expression. Senior Poison Lord, you've already eaten 3 divine flames. How can you still be afraid of the cold? Heh, it was quite warm when I first ate it, but now it's all coming out. Don't you poop when you eat? Enlin asked with a serious expression. Little Qing, White Spirit Snake, there is no way to talk about this. It's frighteningly quiet here, Lu Qianhuan said as she sat on her 6-feathered staff. I'm not used to it if a few monsters don't come out. There are very few creatures that can survive in the inner region, Battle God Ziyang replied. In such a harsh environment, even ferocious beasts can't survive. Just as the two of them were speaking, the surrounding space suddenly darkened. Absolute darkness engulfed everyone in an instant. Be careful, this is a spatial box. Don't move it recklessly, Battle God Ziyang yelled. And Lin's team reacted extremely quickly, and they instantly unleashed all kinds of defensive immortal techniques. What do we do next? This was also the first time Lin had encountered a situation like this. He looked around at the pitch-black environment and asked nervously. This is a semi-enclosed space formed by spatial turbulence. There must be a fissure in it, and that fissure is where we came from. However, due to the spatial turbulence, that fissure is constantly shifting its position. What we need to do is set a coordinate first, then use that coordinate as our starting point and fly in all directions within a radius of 3,000 meters. That way, we'll have a certain chance of escaping from the spatial box. Be careful. Don't use immortal techniques too much. Otherwise, you'll trigger a spatial backlash, Battle God Ziyang cautioned solemnly. Then, he tossed a dazzling fireball into the air as their starting point. Let's not split up. That way, if we encounter any chaotic gales, we'll be able to deal with them together, Battle God Ziyang suggested. 3,000 meters is a very large space. If we keep flying in different directions like this, how long will that take? Lin was in despair. Don't worry, it'll depend on luck. However, to us cultivators, what difference does 6 hours and 3 months make? Battle God Ziyang was quite optimistic, and he immediately consoled him. Lin grimaced. There's no difference for you, but I'll be burning in flames for 3 days when the time limit for my mission is up. At this moment, the silent Little Qing suddenly spoke up. It's not that troublesome. The extreme cold can temporarily solidify the fissure caused by spatial turbulence. Do you understand what I mean? Everyone shuddered upon hearing this. Little Qing didn't waste any words and transformed into her snake-tailed human form. This was her most powerful form. Myriad Snake Frost. She roared furiously, and blue ripples instantly proliferated outwards. Immediately afterward, countless tiny blue snakes surged toward the spatial box like a tidal wave. You're crazy. You'll trigger a spatial backlash like this, Ziyang exclaimed in shock. No problem. Low temperatures can also delay the spatial box's backlash. Battle Goddess by Qiong smiled calmly. There was a confident expression on her face. Battle God Ziyang was at a loss for words. Found it. Battle Goddess by Qiong pointed toward a certain location. 2,000 meters away, in a dark space, there was a tiny blue snake. Only half of its body remained, and its head was nowhere to be seen. Freeze! Battle Goddess by Qiong made a hand seal, and the tiny snake automatically exploded, releasing a powerful frosty aura. Apart from that, the other tiny snakes also surged toward that direction and released the frosty aura within their bodies. Lin and the others knew that they had to seize this opportunity. Without any hesitation, they flew toward that direction and crashed into the dark space. All of a sudden, a strange feeling surfaced in Lin and the others' hearts. It was as if heaven and earth had suddenly become bright, and it was as if they had been reborn. Phew, we're finally free. Lin cheered joyfully. Battle Goddess by Qiong transformed back into a tiny green snake and coiled around White Spirit Snake's arm. Battle God Ziyang's face was slightly flushed. He felt like his knowledge had been crushed, and he couldn't flex anymore. Everyone continued to search through the inner region. It was very likely that the Shouyang tomb was related to this place, and it was also very likely that the divine weapon and the divine flame were here. Thus, everyone was extremely patient in their search. After a short while, they were suddenly enveloped by a peculiar black wind. There were black streams of wind in the sky and on the ground. These streams of wind contained an extremely terrifying slicing power, and even the space around them was unable to withstand it. The space around them began to contract slowly with them at the center. Chapter 335. Be careful, everyone. This is a black wind with extremely powerful tearing power. Try to restrain your aura as much as possible. The more powerful the aura, the easier it is for the black wind to become more powerful. Battle God Ziyang instructed solemnly. Everyone retracted their auras. The speed at which the black wind gathered slowed down significantly, but it was still slowly gathering together. And Lin looked toward Ziyang. What do we do now? We can't just sit here and wait for death, right? Don't panic. From now on, the black wind will become weaker and weaker. When it's about to reach us, its power should be greatly reduced. When that happens, we'll instantly activate a defensive immortal spell and rush out. That way, although we'll suffer some light injuries, it shouldn't be life-threatening, Battle God Ziyang said solemnly. White Spirit Snake's face paled when she heard that she would be injured. The little green snake stuck out her tongue disdainfully. The more we attack the black wind, the weaker it becomes. Why don't we try to weaken its power? But if you use an immortal spell, you'll definitely expose your aura and attract an even greater backlash from the black wind. That's not feasible. Battle God Ziyang shook his head. Then can't we just use an inanimate object to weaken it? The little green snake blinked. Battle God Ziyang choked again. But this black wind is extremely powerful. Ordinary inanimate objects will be annihilated upon contact. The effect won't be good. If we use a divine weapon, it should be fine. However, I can't guarantee that the divine weapon won't be damaged. Passing through the black wind and letting the divine weapon continuously whittle away at the black wind's energy were two completely different concepts. So Ziyang spoke up first. Before anyone could reply, and Lin had already stepped onto his flying sword. In his left hand was a lowly, and in his right hand was a pretty girl. Big, go! Under everyone's watchful eyes, the gigantic black brick crashed into the black wind. Instantly, an incomparably violent energy tearing began to occur. What followed next was the black brick sitting in the center of the black wind like an old turtle, unmoving like a mountain. Just like that, the powerful black wind slowly withered away. A huge gap had appeared in the black wind. Let's go. Just like that, Lin and the others passed through the gap and safely escaped from the black wind. Wow, Honorable Poison Master's brick is so powerful. It's super durable. White Spirit Snake's eyes were clear and limpid, and she stared at Lin with an expression of admiration. She didn't notice that her slender waist was still wrapped around Lin's arm. Ahem! And Lin felt like White Spirit Snake's words were a little strange. He placed Tian Lingling and White Spirit Snake back onto the black brick and continued to search for traces of the tomb. Well, the feeling of hugging two girls at the same time was actually pretty good. However, the two gazes that came out of nowhere caused him to shiver. One came from Su Xiaolan, while the other came from Battle Goddess by Qiong. Battle God Ziyang, on the other hand, remained silent throughout the journey. He had sunk into a state of self-doubt. "Look, there's mist up ahead," White Spirit Snake yelled. Everyone looked ahead, and sure enough, there was a mass of white fog in front of them, making it impossible to see what was going on inside. At this time, Lin and the others all looked at the little green snake. Seeing this, Battle God Ziyang's heart felt stifled. As one of the most powerful beings on the continent, was he going to lose all of his dignity? This mist is a liquefied form of battle chi. Such a dense layer of battle chi means that there's definitely something good within the mist. Of course, there's no telling how dangerous it is. Little Qing explained slowly when she saw everyone looking at her. Hearing this, everyone immediately had an idea in their hearts. "Mr. Ziyang, I'll have to trouble you to lead the way," and Lin said with a smile. Battle God Ziyang grimaced. He really wanted to curse out loud in his heart. Battle God Ziyang, who was clad in a suit of flaming armor, charged into the white mist first. And Lin and the others followed along behind them, all of them in battle mode with 120% of their focus on battle. "There's a mountain?" Battle God Ziyang's eyes burned like torches. It was as if he could pierce through the dense mist and see a tall, towering figure. "Something's not right. Dodge!" He suddenly shouted. A black figure drew closer and closer. With a suffocating aura, it tore through the white mist at an astonishing speed and crashed toward them. Everyone reacted quickly and immediately got on their magic treasures to disperse. Boom! A huge mountain crashed down, causing the ground within a radius of over 1,000 feet to cave in. Lin's eyes widened in shock. That wasn't a huge mountain. It was clearly a gigantic arm. "Trespassers on my territory die." His voice transformed into a violent shockwave that swept through the surroundings. Battle God Ziyang knew that this monster was quite powerful, but he still had to brace himself and charge toward the huge mountain. Another gigantic fist came crashing down. "Great golden flaming hand!" Battle God Ziyang roared. Boundless golden flames burst forth from his palm and collided with the fist. Boom! Another earth-shattering boom erupted. The gigantic fist was charred black and cracked. At the same time, Battle God Ziyang spat out a mouthful of blood and stumbled back. "Little Qing, go and help him." White Spirit Snake couldn't bear to see Battle God Ziyang injured. TSK, a high and mighty battle god, can't even defeat a rock golem. Battle Goddess by Qiong wore a disdainful expression. "Besides, if I go and fight, who's going to protect you?" "I'll protect you." And Lin suddenly spoke. "I'm a supreme being who defeated 2 battle god emperors with a single strike. Don't you trust me?" A blush suddenly appeared on White Spirit Snake's delicate face. Senior Poison Lord will protect me. Little Qing, go." The green snake pursed her lips and transformed into a streak of green light that shot toward the huge figure in the mist. Boom, boom, boom. Another series of loud noises rang out. The surging flames dispersed the thick mist. The green spell technique was vast and boundless, followed by the anguished wails of the huge black figure. And Lin stood in the distance. He was only responsible for shattering the flying rocks and had nothing else to do. God-slaying technique, blue sky underworld sword. Ding! A streak of green light soared into the sky and transformed into a long sword several thousand feet in length. With an extremely terrifying might, it instantly descended. Howl! The huge mountain howled in pain. The ground started to tremble, and the sound of something crashing to the ground traveled over from the distance. A streak of green light flew over from the distance and reappeared on White Spirit Snake's arm. "Done," little Ching said indifferently. And Lin and the others looked at the little green snake with reverence. They were just short of praising her. They flew toward the location of the battle. After seeing who their enemy was, the respect in their hearts grew even stronger. This was an incomparably huge rock golem. It had a crimson core and tough skin. Just its body alone was several thousand feet tall. It was truly a monster that resembled a god fiend. At this moment, its aura had already been severed, and its majestic body was split in half. Battle God Xiong fished out a blue longsword from the rock golem's head. Then, he flew toward everyone and handed the longsword to Enlin. "Not bad. This is the divine weapon, Azure Ocean Sword." Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but sigh in admiration. It was so comfortable to have two Battle God mighty figures accompanying them. After defeating the boss would drop a piece of divine equipment, and the boss would voluntarily give the divine equipment to them. All they had to do was hug the big boss's thigh tightly and cheer him on. The Azure Ocean Divine Sword was light blue in color, and faint ripples flowed through it. At first glance, it gave off a feeling of boundless blue and as deep as the ocean. Unlin swallowed, and a scorching light appeared in his eyes. "Let's split the divine weapons first. Same rules as before." Everyone nodded. Clearly, they had no objections. Battle God Ziyang's Battle Goddess Bai Qiong didn't participate. Soon, 10 drops of blood essence began to hover in the air, exuding a dazzling golden light. The Azure Ocean Sword also began to move. Chapter 336. It's coming, it's coming. Hu Guan and Tang Shimen's eyes were burning with anticipation. The two men finally had a chance to obtain a divine weapon. How could they not be excited? The Azure Ocean Sword clanged and soared into the air. It flew past the wide-eyed Enlin, past Hu Guan and Tang Shimen, and finally stopped in front of a drop of blood essence. It started ringing happily. Everyone turned to look at the lucky person, only to see a look of resignation on her face. Why is it me? I'm a young sorceress. What use do I have for this iron sword?" Lu Qianhuan's purple eyes sparkled as she looked at the joyful sword. There was no hint of joy on her face. "So I forget it. In any case, I already have the Great Ice Sword. If I get the Azure Ocean Sword, I'll just have to play with 2 swords in the future." In the end, she accepted the long sword. She shook her head and put it into her storage ring. Hu Guan and Tang Shimen were about to vomit blood. They roared in their hearts, "Senior sister, if you don't like it, then give it to us. What's with that look of disdain? That will cause more damage, understand?" Battle God Xiong was also dumbfounded by this scene. After all, that sword wasn't some worthless thing. It was a divine weapon that was even more valuable than his underwear. This girl actually disdained it? This was a completely new world. The Azure Ocean Sword already had an owner. Everyone calmed themselves down and continued on their way. The inner region of the ancient barren realm was always filled with danger. Enlin and the others didn't dare to move too quickly. Firstly, it was for safety. Secondly, it was to search carefully. What if the Shouyang tomb was located under the snowy mountain they flew over? They couldn't afford to be careless. Before they knew it, another 2 days had passed. They encountered all sorts of spatial and climatic perilous situations, but all of them were resolved without mishap. The team members had originally planned to search this place for a year and a half, but their expressions were now extremely grave. They were already surrounded by perilous situations in just 2 days. If they really had to spend a year and a half in here, that would be a disaster. And Lin's expression was even more grave than theirs. If he still couldn't find the heavenly void flame, the punishment of self-immolating for 3 consecutive days would befall him. There's something strange about the space in the northeast direction. Battle God Xiong wore a cold expression as he stared intently at the spatial ripples in the distance. The ripples were transparent, like twisting transparent glass, distorting the scene behind them. This phenomenon doesn't seem to have any direct connection with space. Little Qing opened her half-closed eyes and looked at the distorted scene in the northeast. Her face was also filled with doubt. Hearing this, a guess suddenly appeared in Enlin's mind, and he said excitedly, "Do you think that it's the void flame? Because it's too hot. It caused the atmosphere to distort." When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled. Formless and colorless, floating in the void, perhaps it really was. Battle Goddess by Cheong opened her mouth and spat. A small green snake spread, opened its wings, and flew toward the spatial ripples in the distance. As soon as the small green snake touched the twisting ripples, it began to quickly turn black, and finally turned into ashes and disappeared in the air. It really is a flame. Battle Goddess by Cheong didn't deny this. Instead, she turned her gaze toward Enlin, and there was a hint of anticipation in her eyes. Battle God Ziyang also laughed heartily and patted Enlin's shoulder. "Congratulations, Mr. Enlin. It's time for you to perform." Enlin looked at the distant sky and didn't know where to start. After all, this was the first time he had eaten air. Before he could react, the transparent, twisting flames in the distance seemed to have been provoked. They transformed into a river of their own accord and surged toward everyone. They were extremely strange and didn't have the ferocity that a flame should have. Instead, they flowed silently and killed people without leaving a trace. "It's coming, everyone, be careful!" Battle God Ziyang yelled, and all of the team members hid behind Enlin as if they had a tacit understanding. Enlin activated his wings of true fire and opened his mouth wide. Gulp, gulp. Suddenly, a tasteless substance flowed into his stomach. Enlin felt as if he was eating a tasteless but solid air. The texture was very poor. The flames were startled and suddenly stopped. Then, they immediately changed their target. "It's turning. Everyone, be careful!" Battle God Ziyang yelled. The colorless stream of flames suddenly curved and surged toward the team members behind Enlin. "All right, watch me." Enlin immediately changed his footwork and changed his direction. The team members also started running after him. Just like that, the colorless, twisting river missed its target again. Isn't this like a game of eagle and chick? The heavenly void flame is the eagle, where the chicks, and Enlin is the hen. Lu Qianhuan suddenly laughed without any rhyme or reason. Enlin, the transparent stream of flames, didn't give up. It changed its direction a few more times, but Enlin blocked it every time. Moreover, Enlin mercilessly swallowed it a few times. Tui tui, this flame has no taste. It really feels like I'm swallowing air. My stomach is going to explode. Enlin rarely complained about the taste of flames. "I'm also swallowing air every day, but I don't feel full," Su Qianyun said in a mellow voice. "Enlin, we can't go on like this. Don't worry about us. Just attack and eat its source of flames." Xianyuan Chung said. "But I don't even know where the source of flames is," Enlin said with a bitter expression. The heavenly void flame was a transparent ball of flames. Even the source of flames was transparent. There was no way to eat it. "You have to use your heart to sense the location of the source of flames," Battle God Ziyang suddenly said. Enlin grimaced. "Use my heart to sense it? Why don't I use my heart to sense it? Go ahead if you can." Battle God Ziyang closed his eyes. "Listen, that's the heartbeat of the flames." Enlin was just about to complain when two large hands grabbed his waist. Hey, what are you doing? Go!" Battle God Ziyang roared. A huge force suddenly swept over him. Enlin was flung into the air like a cannonball. F***CK. Enlin couldn't care less about anything else. He immediately activated his wings of true fire cultivation method and made a desperate attempt. Boom! His body crashed through the transparent and twisted river. The heavenly void flame continued to pour into his stomach. It felt as if his stomach was being pumped full of air. Finally, he felt a scorching sensation in his mouth. Then, the scorching sensation spread throughout his entire body. The word void appeared on the wings of true fire, forming the words sun, moon, galaxy. Enlin finally heaved a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Who would have thought that he would be able to eat the heavenly void flame so inexplicably? Thinking about it now, he still felt that it was absurd. Ding dong. Mission complete. Next, instilling the second stage of the Wings of True Fire cultivation method. Enlin was instantly greeted by the sight of boundless flames incinerating everything in the universe into nothingness. The true intent of the flames of the sun, moon, and galaxy started to fuse into his body. A crimson symbol appeared on the back of his hand, causing his aura to become more vigorous and scorching. Battle God Ziyang looked at Enlin's rising aura with excitement. Is this the effect of reaching the phenomenal success stage of the flame mantra? What a pure power of flames. What a terrifying true intent of flames. Although Enlin didn't unleash any earth-shattering spell techniques, Battle God Ziyang was extremely envious of the profound intent of the flames flowing through his body. Even Su Xiaolan, who possessed the power of the divine phoenix, was astonished. All of the team members sighed with emotion upon seeing this. Who would have thought that the 4 divine flames on the Zhanqi continent would really have been eaten by Enlin? Furthermore, Enlin really was able to use these flames to cultivate a godly cultivation technique. Enlin was extremely satisfied as he sensed the surging flame power within his body. He really wanted to burn something. The second stage of the Wings of True Fire was the Sea of Divine Flames. He wondered how powerful it would be. All right, we've collected the Heavenly Void Flame. Let's continue. Little Qing glanced at Enlin and spoke first. At some point in time, the light in the sky gradually dimmed. Everyone continued to advance north. Suddenly, a moving black figure appeared on the pristine white snow in the distance. Chapter 337. Hey, look, what's that? Lu Qinhuan pointed at a black shadow about 500 meters away with a surprised expression. Everyone looked in the direction she was pointing and saw a black shadow moving. Could it be some kind of life form? In the inner region of the ancient barren realm, aside from the mountain-like rock golem, they couldn't see any other life forms. Who would have thought that there would be life forms here? Let's go. Let's go and have a look. Enlin flew toward the black shadow on his brick. The black shadow seemed to have sensed danger and started to flee. However, its speed was no match for Enlin and the others, so it was quickly caught up to. Only when they got closer did they see the black shadow clearly. It was actually an extremely large rat. This rat was about 10 feet in size. Its fur was pitch black, and its tail was as red as blood. Its large, intelligent eyes darted around, occasionally glancing at the cultivators behind it as it ran for its life. Let's not catch it. Let's just follow it and see where it can run to, Enlin suggested excitedly. There aren't any caves nearby, so when a mouse encounters danger, its instinctive reaction should be to run home. I'm a little curious as to what kind of place would be able to feed this mouse, Xian Yuan Cheng said with a smile. Such a large rat couldn't have survived through photosynthesis in this world of ice and snow, right? There had to be some kind of unknown place. Just like that, everyone chased after the rat for a distance of 5 or 6 kilometers. Then, the rat plunged headfirst into the snow and completely disappeared from everyone's sight. This! Enlin blinked in confusion. Why did this rat suddenly burrow into the snow? Could it be a gopher? Battle God Ziyang's brows furrowed tightly. No, there's something wrong with this snow. He waved a hand, and a gust of wind swept through the air, sending snow flying into the air. Enlin and the others immediately noticed that something was amiss. The snow that the rat had burrowed into was extremely heavy. Instead, the snow around it flew up into the air while the snow in the center bulged out like a ball of white cotton. Enlin landed on the snow and lightly touched the bulging snow with his hand. To his surprise, he didn't feel a trace of coldness. It was as if his hand had pierced into thin air. He thought for a moment, then took out another spirit stone and tossed it into the snow. The spirit stone collided with the accumulated snow, causing it to wriggle gently like a cloud. Then it disappeared. Haha, looks like we found the right place. This is the space channel. Enlin's eyes lit up with excitement. Everyone then turned their attention to Battle God Ziyang. Battle God Ziyang's eyelids twitched, and he stumbled back a couple of steps. Why are you looking at me? Enlin cleared his throat. We need a powerful guide, and I think you're the most suitable candidate, Senior Ziyang. Battle god Ziyang grimaced, and he had a million curses he wanted to hurl. However, when he saw the flickering light in the little green snake's eyes, he forcefully swallowed his words. All right, I'll be a hero for once. Ziyang's expression was resolute as he leaped. The snow fell silently, and his figure completely disappeared in the snow. Unlin and the others looked expectantly at the protruding snow, waiting for a response. A minute later, there was still no response from the snow. 3 minutes later, the protruding snow was still very calm. And Lin couldn't help but ask, Senior Ziyang wouldn't have died, would he? Huan was also a little nervous. Could it be that this space channel can only teleport in one direction? That's a possibility. Since the rat can come out, then there must be a way out. However, the exit might be different from the entrance, Xin Yuancheng also said solemnly. How about we all go down together? That way, we can take care of each other if we encounter any mishaps, and Lin said as he enlarged his black brick. It would be easier for them to face unknown dangers together. After all, there might be dangers down there that could even kill a battle god, so they couldn't be too cautious. Everyone looked at each other and nodded with resolute expressions. They leaped onto Lin's black brick and slowly sank into the snow. As their vision changed, the vast expanse of white snow transformed into a lush green world with lush greenery and lively nightingales. Forest, fresh flowers, grassland, clear spring, a rich aura of life washed over them. When they came to their senses, they had already landed on a grassland. Next to them was a teleportation tunnel that looked like it was made of white cotton. And Lin put away his black brick and looked around in amazement. This is practically a paradise. Tian Lingling's eyes widened, and she couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. Regardless of whether it was the towering ancient trees or the peach blossoms beside the clear spring, they were all filled with boundless life force, giving off a breathtaking feeling. A light breeze blew over, accompanied by the faint fragrance of flowers. Pink flower petals danced in the wind, and with every breath of air, one's body felt a little more refreshed. Say, where did Senior Ziyang go? And Lin saw that everything was peaceful and there didn't seem to be any danger. Where was Ziyang? He couldn't have been eaten by a rat, could he? Everyone also looked around in puzzlement, and then their gazes converged on a towering tree in unison. There was a person lying on the ground, foaming at the mouth and holding a half-eaten fruit in his hand. And Lin raised his head and looked toward the tree. There were 8 fruits at the top of the tree, all of which were glowing with a faint red light. He finally understood what was going on. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he walked toward Ziyang. He patted Ziyang's aggrieved face and chuckled. They say that people die for wealth and birds die for food. Even if you want to keep these fruits for yourself, you can't be so impulsive. You should at least check to see if they're poisonous. Battle god Ziyang. The little green snake transformed into her human form and instantly arrived at the top of the tree. She plucked an immortal fruit in her hand and carefully sensed the energy fluctuations within it. This is a third-rank immortal fruit that contains an extremely rich flame power and vital energy. The powerful flame power is what attracted Ziyang, but this extremely rich vital energy is poisonous to him. Saying this, Bai Qiong felt that it was a bit funny. She looked at the man on the ground with her beautiful phoenix eyes and continued, Haste makes waste. Now do you know how it feels when primordial qi collides with your battle qi? Battle god Ziyang's body was still convulsing, and the energy within his body was surging violently. He looked toward battle goddess Bai Qiong with a pleading gaze. Battle goddess Bai Qiong turned her gaze toward White Spirit Snake, and White Spirit Snake turned her gaze toward Lin. And Lin massaged his brows. All right, let's save him. At most, we'll just make him swear another heavenly Tao oath. White Spirit Snake smiled at Bai Qiong. Little Qing, I'll leave the matter of adjusting his battle qi to you. Battle goddess Bai Qiong. She shook her head in exasperation. She placed her hand on battle god Ziyang's back, and a green light started to radiate from her hand. 10 minutes later, the light disappeared. Bai Qiong transformed back into a green snake and once again latched onto White Spirit Snake's back. Unlin was a bit envious of White Spirit Snake. A gentle, considerate, beautiful, and powerful beast pet like her was exactly what he needed. He couldn't help but think of Xiaohong. That girl only knew how to photosynthesize every day. She would either suddenly wake her master up by singing in the morning or ridicule her master. Sigh. It's infuriating to compare spoils. Battle God Ziyang stood up. Although his face was a bit pale, it was clear that he was fine. He looked awkwardly at his team members and thought for a moment. Then, he passed the remaining half of the immortal fruit to them. I'm sorry, I was wrong. There's still half of this immortal fruit left. I'll hand it over. All the team members, is EF * King acting cute? And Lin grimaced. Swear another heavenly Tao oath. Just like that, Battle God Ziyang swore another heavenly Tao oath that he had a hand over any treasures he discovered to Enlin and the others. The remaining half of the immortal fruit was also given to Ziyang. No one wanted to eat his saliva. Enlin and the others plucked all 8 immortal fruits and placed them on the ground. Third rank immortal fruit, sun condensing fruit. It had the effect of expanding one's sea of vital energy and increasing one's flame power. How were they going to split it? Bai Qiong and Ziyang didn't want it, but there were still 10 of them. Right at this moment, Tang Shimin volunteered. He took out a roulette with 10 spaces on it and marked each team member with a serial number. Then he spun 8 spots of light. Please don't doubt me. My roulette is very fair. As if afraid that everyone wouldn't believe him, Tang Shimin emphasized again and again as he spun the roulette. The results were out, and it was indeed fair. Because Tang Shimin didn't make it, F * CK. What kind of bad luck do I have? Tang Shimin stared at the results of the roulette with tears streaming down his face. He was completely speechless. The other person who didn't make it was Xian Yuancheng. However, he was very calm and collected. It was as if he was lucky to get the immortal fruit, but if he didn't, it was his fate. Enlin picked up the immortal fruit and ate it to his heart's content. He squinted his eyes in bliss as he sensed the richer vital energy and flame power in his body. Senior Ziyang, do you see that? This is the correct way to eat an immortal fruit. After eating the immortal fruit, he didn't forget to add another stab. Ziyang's chest tightened, and he almost vomited blood. After splitting the immortal fruits, everyone continued to wander around. Soon, they discovered a cave abode. The plaque of the cave abode hung from the ceiling, and the words written on it were fresh and natural. The plaque read, Tomb of Celestial Immortal Shouyang. Chapter 338. After discovering Celestial Immortal Shouyang's tomb, Enlin and the others were ecstatic. After so many trials and tribulations, they had finally found this place. As their guide, Battle God Ziyang led the way. They passed through a dark passageway and arrived at a spacious inner chamber. This inner chamber was extremely spacious. There were 10 tightly shut doors around it, and in the very center was a pristine white stone tablet. Enlin and the others walked up to the stone tablet and saw that there was a map drawn on it. This isn't a map of the tomb, is it? Tian Lingling was astonished. Enlin was also dumbstruck. Was this a F * King tomb or a tourist attraction? There was even a map of the tomb. According to the map, they were at the origin point at the very bottom. After that, they would follow 10 different routes and go straight up. After passing a node, they would finally start to converge. After that, they would pass 3 more nodes and reach the end. The 10 different paths were known as the 10 Realm Guardian Tribes: Snake Spirit Clan, Heavenly Turtle Tribe, Dragon Tribe, Holy Martial Clan, Dark Wing Tribe, Vermilion Bird Tribe, Stone Tribe, Spirit Fish Clan, True Demon Tribe, and Void Spirit Tribe. Some of the tribes were familiar to Enlin, while others were completely unfamiliar to him. What surprised him the most was that there was the Dark Wing Tribe among them. The Dark Wing Tribe was one of the 10 Realm Guardian Tribes? Which realm were they guarding? It wasn't the entire world, was it? He felt like this was definitely not a proper Realm Guardian Tribe. Just look at the True Demon Tribe and the Dark Wing Tribe. They were clearly not good people. There weren't even any humans. It looks like these 10 paths were prepared for the 10 of us. Perhaps each path has a fortuitous opportunity. Let's all choose. and Lin thought for a moment before speaking. White Spirit Snake immediately stood in front of the gate of the Snake Spirit clan with a wide grin on her face. She still had little Qing on her arm, so no one thought that this trial would pose a problem for her. Tian Lingling chose the Spirit Fish clan for no other reason than that they seemed easier to bully, and Lin also assigned Battle God Ziyang to Tian Lingling. After all, Tian Lingling was only a cultivator of the 10th stage Dao body, and Lin really didn't feel comfortable letting her go alone. Su Xiaolan hesitated for a long time between the Vermilion Bird Tribe and the Dragon Tribe before choosing the Vermilion Bird Tribe, and Lin chose the Dark Wing Tribe. He wanted to see what kind of tricks this tribe, which he had once held a grudge against, had up their sleeves. Lu Qianhuan had chosen the Void Spirit Tribe almost without any hesitation, and there was even a hint of undetectable sharpness in her eyes. The next few people were more casual, so he just randomly chose them. Su Qianyin chose the Heavenly Turtle Tribe route. Tang Shimin chose the Dragon Tribe route. Xin Yuan Cheng chose the Holy Martial Clan. Yao Mingxi chose the True Demon Tribe, and Hu Guan chose the Stone Tribe. Everyone walked to the front of the various doors and found that there was an empty slot on the door. After placing the Jade Talisman there, the door began to slowly open, revealing a passage with echoing light patterns. "I'll be waiting for everyone at the intersection," and Lin said with a smile as he looked at everyone who was about to embark on their journey. After saying this, he walked into the door without any hesitation. Within the passage, golden light patterns rippled like waves, slowly rippling through the air. And Lin continued onward, and a very peculiar feeling spread through his body, as if he was connected to something. Could this be the connection of fate? Was this fate? He thought back to that earth-shattering battle in Tibet, and a surge of hot blood welled up in his heart. That was a battle between him and the Dark Wing Tribe. Just as Lin was thinking about this, the inky black longsword in his hand began to tremble involuntarily. He looked at the evil-slaying sword with a peculiar expression. "Air, could it be that I'm feeling this way because of you?" The evil-slaying sword wore a cold expression and didn't say anything. And Lin heaved a faint sigh before continuing onward. At the same time, Hu Guan had already arrived at a new world. There were several dozen black stone pillars over 100 meters tall here. These stone pillars were ancient and majestic, and they also contained a dangerous aura. Detected that Trial Taker is of the spirit nurturing initial stage, activating normal mode. A voice suddenly traveled down from the sky. Immediately afterward, a pair of crimson eyes suddenly opened on the black stone pillars. White Spirit Snake led Little Qing toward the end of the passage. "Little Qing, what kind of monster do you think will appear in there? I'm a little scared." "Don't be scared. No matter what it is, I'll block it for you." "I suddenly feel so useless. I'm always being protected by others, and I can't do anything. That's because you haven't grown up yet. When you grow up, it'll be your turn to protect others." Just as the two of them were chatting idly, they walked out of the passage and saw a swamp appear before them. Detected that Trial Taker is of the Dao body tier, activating normal mode. Battle Goddess by Qiong was momentarily dazed upon hearing this. Then, she chuckled lightly. Interesting. I didn't think that the difficulty could be adjusted according to one's cultivation base. However, it didn't include my combat prowess. That's a bit of a bully." Tang Shimin walked to the end of the passage and saw a large black mountain in the distance. White skeletons littered the ground, and a deathly stillness enshrouded the entire space. Detected that Trial Taker is of the spirit nurturing final stage, activating normal mode. Difficult mode? I was just worried that I've been living too peacefully these past few days. You've come at the right time. Tang Shimin smiled faintly. He drew his long sword, and his aura instantly soared into the sky. I've been in this world for so long, but I'm still empty-handed. I must obtain the inheritance this time. Su Qianyin was a little uneasy as she walked forward. She was used to being protected. Now that she had to face unknown challenges on her own, she was still a little uneasy and nervous. Just like that, she walked out of the passage step by step. Then, she was stunned by the scenery outside. What's this? A beach? The ocean? Su Qinyun's petite lips were slightly agape, and she stared at the scenery in front of her in disbelief. The golden beach, the vast ocean, and the radiant and beautiful light all gave her a dreamy feeling. Detected that trial taker is of the spirit nurturing final stage, activating normal mode. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the sky. Su Qinyun blinked in confusion. Huh? What are you talking about? The voice in the sky was in Mandarin, so Su Qinyun was dumbfounded. However, the person who was the most dumbfounded wasn't Su Qinyun. Instead, it was Lu Qianhuan. Lu Qianhuan arrived on a vast and boundless white continent. The entire space around her was filled with rainbow light, and there were countless seemingly substantial rainbow creatures dancing on the ground. This was like some kind of abstract painting that was filled with a sense of distortion and surrealism. Detected that trial taker is of the soul formation stage, activating normal mode. Lu Qianhuan was dumbfounded upon hearing this. Soul formation stage? I'm of the soul formation stage? I'm clearly of the half-step soul formation stage. What the hell are you doing by activating normal mode? Chapter 339. Within a pitch-black space, a snake-tailed female stared unblinkingly at a screen. This female's upper body was as fair as jade, but her snake tail was as black as ink. Her ink-black eyes were especially spirited. Lower the collapse value of battle chi by 1/10,000% and increase the spiritual value by 1/10%. The female's voice was soundless. The bronze wheel in front of her started spinning, and the power of the laws started spreading, covering the entire continent. At this moment, another snake-tailed male with green hair walked over. He bowed respectfully. Master Black, the trial has been arranged. The female nodded with a smile. I'm looking forward to their performance. Immediately afterward, 10 different images appeared on the screen. Why is little Sister White's trial so weak? The female furrowed her brows. Didn't you say that the trial would be divided according to rank? Master White is only of the 7th stage Dao body, so she arranged for the normal difficulty. The green-haired male hurriedly explained. Are you blind? Can't you see that little Qing is also there? Don't you know how to set up a sealing spell formation to seal little Qing's power? The female glared at the green-haired male. Her deep, pitch-black eyes were like a vortex that could swallow everything. The green-haired male's body trembled. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and immediately replied, I'll set it up now. Didn't White Spirit Snake come here to obtain an inheritance? The green-haired male didn't expect that Black Spirit Snake would place such importance on White Spirit Snake's trial. It seemed like he had really angered Black Spirit Snake by opening the back door for her. Just as the green-haired male finished speaking, a voice suddenly sounded from the screen. Congratulations! You have successfully passed the trial of the Snake Spirit Tribe. Within a moist swamp, colorful poisonous miasma permeated the air. Over 100 colorful pythons lay scattered on the ground. 3 snake-tailed, snake spirit demons lay on the ground with blood dripping from the corners of their mouths. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong wore a green dress, and she stood in the center of the battlefield with a domineering expression. She was a peerless beauty. Black Spirit Snake stared at the screen in silence. The green-haired male? His instincts told him that this was the calm before the storm. A white, heart-shaped light descended from the sky and slowly fused into White Spirit Snake's glabella. That brilliance contained the Serpent Spirit Clan's cultivation method and supreme knowledge that led directly to the source. Wow, little Qing is so awesome. I love you to death. Like a little girl, White Spirit Snake pounced toward Battle Goddess Bai Qiong. Her smile was like a blossoming flower, and it was as if she was a younger sister relying on her older sister. Bai Qiong stroked White Spirit Snake's head with a doting smile on her face. Just as Black Spirit Snake was staring at the screen in silence, another voice suddenly sounded. Congratulations, you have passed the Spirit Fish Clan trial. Within the sea of flames, Tian Lingling glared at him with her slightly curly chestnut-colored hair. Uncle, can you please watch out for people next time you set things on fire? My hair is scorched. Battle God Zeon glanced at the little lowly beside him. He held a huge squid tentacle in his hand and was happily munching on it. "That's enough," he said with a muffled voice. "Don't be so greedy. Do you see the green ball of light above your head? Hurry up and accept the inheritance." Just like that, Tian Lingling received the inheritance of the Spirit Fish clan. The green-haired man swallowed nervously as he turned to look at the female beside him. "A brain is a good thing. I hope you can have one." Black Spirit Snake smiled. If White Spirit Snake had passed because the green-haired man was wary of her status, then what about Tian Lingling? A lowly of the 10th stage Dao body didn't do anything. All she did was act cute and pass the trial. This tomb wasn't a charity organization that specialized in handing out inheritances. As the person in charge of the trial, the fact that the green-haired man had caused the trial to become like this could only mean one thing. He was too stupid. The green-haired man was drenched in cold sweat. He indeed hadn't set up any protective measures to deal with that battle god. He immediately knelt to the ground and admitted his mistake. "Master Black, please have mercy on me. I know I was wrong. Please spare this lowly one's life. This kind of thing will never happen again." Black Spirit Snake didn't say anything. Her gaze was fixed on the screen. The green-haired man didn't dare to stand up either. He continued to kneel and stare at the screen, hoping that the following trial would be a little more impressive. And Lin arrived on top of a gigantic floating rock. His surroundings were extremely dark. Only the specks of starlight in the sky prevented this space from becoming completely pitch black. Detected that the trial taker is of the spirit nurturing final stage. Activating hard mode. And Lin burst into laughter upon hearing this voice. "Only hard mode? I'm no ordinary spirit nurturing final stage cultivator." The black sky rippled. Immediately afterward, 5 members of the Darkwing tribe wielding black spears flew down from the sky. Although they exuded a powerful aura, their bodies were enveloped by a deathly aura. "You dare invade our territory? Die." The man in the lead let loose a loud roar, and a black light erupted from his spear as he stabbed it toward Lin. And Lin's expression didn't change. He raised his evil-slaying sword upward, and a pure black sword projection soared into the sky like a crescent moon. Boom! The sword projection collided with the black spear projection, shattering the spear projection before crashing toward the male. The male's pupils contracted, and he raised his spear in front of him. Immediately afterward, the black sword projection crashed into him, sending him flying through the air as he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, this wasn't the end. The black sword projection latched onto the male's body. "Ah, what's this?" The male looked down at his own body in shock and horror. His skin was enveloped by the black sword projection, and it quickly shriveled up. His blood was also rapidly flowing out of his body. "How could this be? My power." The male stared at the sword in Lin's hand. Could this be the holy weapon of our tribe? Evil slaying? He didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence before he slowly fell to the ground like a bird that had suddenly died. The black energy transformed into a ball and flew back to the evil-slaying sword, where it slowly fused with it. The long sword seemed to have been nourished, and it actually hummed in pleasure. The black glow on the blade flickered, and it was as if it were breathing. And Lin blinked and raised the long sword in his hand. "Little Xia, you're the holy weapon of the Darkwing tribe, right? Why didn't you tell me you were that bad ****? Evil-slaying sword, and Lin ignored its cold attitude and continued. "Did you feel good sucking that ball? Do you want me to let you have some more fun?" The evil-slaying sword trembled slightly, and it felt like it wanted to cut someone down. The 4 Darkwing tribe cultivators in the sky seemed to have been stunned, and they stared blankly at Lin with their black spears in their hands. Right at this moment, another 4 extremely sharp sword projections whistled through the air like a series of black crescent moons. Boom, boom, boom. The sword projections were too fast, and the Darkwing tribe cultivators could only choose to take them head-on. However, all of them had their energy and blood essence sucked away by the strange black light, and they were all killed in a single strike. The 4 black balls floated onto the blade of the evil-slaying sword and slowly fused together. and Lin didn't know if he was hallucinating, but he felt like his long sword had become even more pure black. "Little Xia, is it delicious?" And Lin asked with a benevolent expression. "Inferior black-winged clones, not delicious." A cold voice sounded in Lin's mind, and there was a hint of satisfaction in its indifferent voice, as if it were a little girl who had just eaten her fill. "Aren't you the holy weapon of the Darkwing tribe? Why do you like to eat Darkwing tribe cultivators? Is hitting them because it hurts, and eating them because it loves them?" And Lin asked curiously. This time, the evil-slaying sword didn't reply, and Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. He still had a long way to go on the path of training his weapon. "Congratulations on passing the Darkwing tribe trial." A voice suddenly sounded in the sky, and a ball of black light floated down from the sky. "Ah, this trial is so boring. Are they free marks? They're looking down on me too much." And Lin insta-killed one Darkwing tribe cultivator with a single strike, but a voice suddenly sounded in the sky, telling him that he had passed the trial. "This is a trial? What is this trial? Isn't this an insult?" And Lin's mocking voice sounded in real time from the screen. "Ah, this trial is so boring. Are they free marks? They're looking down on me too much." Black Spirit Snake stared at the screen with a dark expression. The green-haired male almost knelt down in front of Lin. F***CK, of all the times to mock Lin, why did he have to do it now? Chapter 340. And Lin accepted the black orb of light, and a series of images instantly appeared in his mind. It was an image of the Darkwing tribe battling some kind of black monster. The battle was extremely exaggerated, causing heaven and earth to crumble and the sun and moon to sink. It was as if the entire world was about to be engulfed by this battle. Among them, there was a male with black feathers, and the sword technique he used was called the Endless Night sword technique. Just as Lin came to his senses, the true essence of the Endless Night sword technique flowed into his mind. An extremely powerful sword intent surged through the air, and the evil-slaying sword trembled with excitement. "This sword technique is very suitable for me." The cold voice sounded again, and Lin blinked and replied, "But I feel like the 6 strikes of the war god is more suitable for me." Evil-slaying sword. The evil-slaying sword fell silent and transformed back into an icy cold sword. A master like this wants to nurture a spirit? He's probably living in a dream. And Lin didn't know what the evil-slaying sword was thinking. Instead, he was very pleased with himself. "Humph, that's what you get for being so cold. I'll choke you to death." After he passed the trial, a passageway appeared on the gigantic floating rock. This passageway clearly led to the gathering points of the 10 different paths. He didn't think too much about it, and continued forward while humming a little tune. In a certain dark space, a woman stared at the screen, seemingly thinking about something. The green-haired male trembled in fear, only to find that his hair was falling off continuously. A minute later, he was completely bald. He didn't become stronger. "There's a saying in Her Majesty's small world," Black Spirit Snake said coldly. "I'd like to think of it the other way around," Black Spirit Snake said coldly. "Master Black is wise." The bald male nodded repeatedly with tears in his eyes. "Master Black is wise." And Lin hummed a little tune as he arrived at the gathering point of the 8 paths. This was a gigantic stone chamber. After arriving, he discovered that there were already 2 groups of people waiting there. "Hey, White Spirit Snake, Tian Lingling, you guys are so fast." And Lin greeted them with a carefree expression. "No, it's all thanks to little Qing." Being praised by her idol, White Spirit Snake blushed, and she tugged at the corner of her shirt in embarrassment. Tian Lingling didn't seem to mind. She laughed heartily. That's the difference between a human brain and a program. This stupid program actually gave us an easy level of difficulty. Haha, the result could be imagined. After Lin heard this, he came to a realization. Even a battle god's battle prowess can be ignored. That means he can indeed pass by lying down. I have to say, this graveyard program is really stupid. Next, we could try to find a loophole in this stupid program. In the dark space, the bald man was about to cry again. "Stupid program? Stupid your sister. I'm begging you to shut your mouths after taking advantage of me." My precious life is about to end here because of your words. He looked up at Black Spirit Snake, and sure enough, Black Spirit Snake's expression darkened even further. Sigh, a single misstep really causes everlasting sorrow. Why are these people all like this? At this moment, Su Xiaolan arrived on a cloud of flames. Several gigantic winged, flaming feather birds spat flames at her, but they were unable to harm her in the slightest. All of them were repelled by the golden flames on her body. Su Xiaolan, who had fully activated her divine phoenix bloodline, could be said to be least afraid of fire. As long as the flames level was not as high as hers, she could resist and even command the flames. Su Xiaolan wielded the dragon sparrow sword and moved forward gracefully. The raging flames bent slightly, as if they were bowing their heads. She was like a divine phoenix who controlled the flames, holy, noble, and beautiful beyond compare. When a long sword slashed through the sky, it was as beautiful as the sun, making it impossible for one to look directly at it. The few gigantic winged, flaming featherbird in the sky didn't even have a chance to cry before they were sliced in half by the sword. Flames and blood rained down from the sky. Congratulations to the Vermilion Bird Tribe for passing the trial. In this pure white world, the White Palace was constantly emitting light. 5 completely white humanoid creatures with golden wheels on their backs were furiously attacking the man in the middle. Each of their punches and kicks contained ultimate martial arts that had been trained to the extreme. The force of their punches was so great that it could even shatter a small mountain hundreds of meters away. In this battle, vital energy surged violently, the wind howled, and the ground cracked. The man surrounded by the 5 white humanoid creatures was Xianyuan Cheng. He used the Tai Chi steps, and as he slashed with his ancient sword, a white aura enveloped his entire body. His offense and defense were stable. No matter how exquisite or powerful the attacks were, they were unable to break through his defense. On the contrary, as he defended, his long sword was always able to find an opening to counterattack. The blade of his sword was like a sharp airflow in a violent storm. It could hurt people invisibly and disappeared in a flash. Unknowingly, the bodies of the 5 white humanoid creatures were covered with wounds of various sizes. White liquid flowed slowly from them. Xianyuan Cheng wielded his ancient sword and swung it to the left. His aura flowed through his body, and he repelled the powerful white fist to the side. Immediately afterward, he retreated a few steps in order to evade the oncoming attack. He suddenly placed his sword vertically in front of him, and a sharp glint appeared in his eyes. Myriad spirit, fate, death. Countless flashing golden symbols suddenly appeared on the wounds of the 5 white humanoid creatures. Immediately afterward, their vitality quickly dissipated as if it were being stripped away. They still wanted to attack with all their might, but they discovered that they could no longer move. After a few more breaths, all of their vitality disappeared, and they crashed to the ground. Congratulations to the Holy Martial Clan for passing the trial. Huge waves roared on the golden beach, and a series of blue water dragons crashed toward the bouncing figure. The bouncing figure was graceful, and it was as agile as a bird under the onslaught of the water dragons. A bright blue light flashed, and the giant tortoise enshrouded in a thick white mist suddenly felt a cold sensation on its neck before it lost consciousness. Congratulations to the Heavenly Turtle Tribe for passing the trial. Huh? What are you saying? Su Qianyun didn't understand Mandarin, and she stared up at the sky with a blank expression. There were still droplets of translucent water droplets on her stunningly beautiful face, making her appear extremely enchanting and enchanting. There was no reply from the sky. Instead, a blue ball of light slowly descended. Su Qianyun knew that this could be a reward, so she caught it with her hand. Immediately afterward, the water-type techniques of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe began to flow into her mind. This is interesting. Finally, something that I can understand. Su Qianyun's eyes narrowed into a smile. She casually waved her hand toward the ocean, and a wave of 100 feet instantly rose up, as if it were a curtain of water that blotted out the entire sky. Immediately afterward, it froze into a block of ice. Under the illumination of the light, it was translucent and exuded waves of frosty intent. Where should I go next? Su Qianyun began to look around after trying her hand, but she couldn't find a way out. The spatial passageway was behind the ice wall, and it was glowing faintly. It was a pity that its existence just so happened to be concealed by the translucent patterns of light on the ice wall on a tall black tower. A blood-red moon hung high in the sky. A true demon with 2 horns on its head, crimson eyes, and a body covered in scales was currently engaged in battle with an extremely powerful swordsman. Their collisions in the air were like astonishing booms of thunder. The swordsman wielded the divine weapon Dark Flash Sword and slashed out a perfect circle. The dark slash even overshadowed the blood moon in the sky and split the tower into 2 halves. It also tore the true demon's body into 2 halves in the air. Congratulations on passing the True Demon Tribe trial. Yao Mingshi nodded slightly as he listened to the voice in the sky. He seemed to be very satisfied with this battle. In another world, Hu Guan was currently engaged in a melee battle with several dozen massive stone golems. The exhilaration of every punch hitting flesh was simply unparalleled. He enjoyed this process very much, and he was beaten black and blue until his face was swollen and his head was bleeding. After killing the last black stone golem, his body was already riddled with wounds, but his eyes were extremely bright. He couldn't help but raise his arms and yell, "That was awesome! Who else?" It was quite clear that Hu Guan was having a great time. In a certain dark space, the bald male felt that the voices coming from the screen were extremely piercing to his ears. Every word that fell into his ears was like a heart-piercing mockery. They seem to be having a great time. You've even turned this tomb trial into an amusement park. Not bad. Black Spirit Snake smiled faintly. However, in the eyes of the bald male, that smile was extremely horrifying. Chapter 341. Enlin was waiting for his teammates in the stone chamber. Su Xiaolan, Xianyuan Cheng, Yao Mingshi, Hu Guan, as well as Su Qianyun, who had arrived late, walked out of the passageway and appeared in the stone chamber. Aside from Hu Guan, who looked a little miserable, everyone else seemed to be in good shape. Even Hu Guan was in a good state of mind, even though he had sustained some flesh wounds. So far, everything was going well for their team. We're still missing 2 people. One is Tang Shimin, and the other is Lu Qianwan. And Lin stroked his chin. He was still a little worried. Of these 2, one looked very reliable, while the other looked very unreliable, but in reality, neither of them was reliable. If something strange really happened, it wouldn't be that shocking. Isn't Big Sister, Lu, a half-step soul formation stage cultivator? She should be able to handle the difficult mode very easily. Why hasn't she come out yet? Tian Lingling was a little confused. And Lin thought back to the past and was a little unsure. Could it be that she's playing games with the creatures inside? Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing this. They thought back to the battle for the Holy Grail. Not to mention, this was really possible. On a black mountain littered with skeletons. Tang Shimin swung the long sword in his hand as he battled with a huge black dragon. This black dragon was a lizard dragon with a pair of huge wings on its back. It had a cunning and unpredictable personality, and after realizing that it couldn't defeat Tang Shimin in a head-on battle, it began to use guerrilla tactics. That's right, this black dragon was constantly running. Boom! Another scorching breath of flames dyed the sky red. Tang Shimin slashed the flames apart with his sword, only to find that the black dragon was fleeing into the distance again. Don't run if you dare. What kind of dragon are you, if you don't even have the courage to fight me head-on? He roared as he continued to chase after the black dragon. You have a sword, but I don't. This isn't fair. The black dragon roared. Tang Shimin's lips twitched. Then I'll give you a sword. The black dragon harumphed coldly. I don't know how to use a sword. Then what do you want? Tang Shimin gritted his teeth. You don't use a sword. Fight me in a hand-to-hand battle, the black dragon replied. Tang Shimin, he only gave the black dragon a look of disdain. The black dragon responded with an incomparably scorching breath of fire. In a world of distorted colors and grotesque lights, under the Hell Mode's activation, the entire sky began to become strange and unpredictable. The illusionary and viscous colors slowly converged and finally formed a translucent skeleton wrapped in a green cloak. A powerful and terrifying aura began to spread in all directions. The skeleton's hollow eyes ignited with flames, and the scarlet scythe in his hand released a wave of bloody aura. In the dark space, when the bald man saw the skeleton, his heart immediately became excited. The Hell difficulty Void Spirit Tribe trial would produce a Void Spirit King with a spirit body. It was immune to all physical and Yuan Qi attacks. Only the power of the Divine Soul could attack it. It was in a semi-invincible state. In this state, even a soul formation stage cultivator would find it extremely difficult to defeat the Void Spirit King, let alone a half-step soul formation stage cultivator. The trial is easy. The trial wasn't as difficult as an amusement park. At least this trial wasn't. The bald man stared at the screen with an excited expression. This battle could at least save some face for him. Lu Qianhuan closed her eyes and took a deep breath as she looked at the translucent green skeleton in front of her. What a familiar scent. This is the aura. I hope you won't disappoint me. She opened her eyes, and her usual playfulness and flirtatiousness had completely disappeared. All that was left was a bone-chilling coldness. Her storage ring flashed, and a light blue longsword appeared in her hand. At this moment, her expression was focused, cold, and proud. The aura that belonged to a peerless female, sword immortal, exuded from her body. She had never used a sword. Aside from the Battle of True Intent during the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers, where she had used it once so that she wouldn't be a burden to her teammates, no one had ever seen her use a sword. No one knew why she was so resistant to using a sword. Her combat prowess was off the charts when she used a sword, but she refused to use it. Only she knew that using a sword would bring about a strong sense of guilt. And this sense of guilt could only be alleviated when she was slaying Void Spirit Tribe cultivators. The Void Spirit King's body suddenly twisted and disappeared. In the next instant, it appeared behind Lu Qianhuan, and its crimson scythe slashed toward Lu Qianhuan's snow-white neck in a lethal arc too slow. Lu Qianhuan moaned softly. Golden symbols flashed on the tips of her feet, and her body instantly flashed to the Void Spirit King's side. Her blue longsword slashed toward the Void Spirit King at an even faster speed. Rip! The sword was like a phantom, and it instantly sliced open a gaping wound on the Void Spirit King's body. The Void Spirit King, who had been silent this entire time, suddenly howled in pain. The part of its body that had been slashed actually began to evaporate like water vapor. The bald man who had been spectating the battle this entire time widened his eyes in disbelief. The Void Spirit King was injured? How is this possible? This woman clearly hadn't used any divine sense attacks. So how was she able to injure his spirit body? Amidst his shock, his gaze lingered on the light blue longsword in Lu Qianhuan's hand, and his pupils contracted slightly. Could it be because of this sword? Lu Qianhuan walked toward the Void Spirit King step by step, and the light blue longsword in her hand trembled slightly. It was as if it had sensed a long-awaited battle intent, and it also became excited. She had a sword called the Great Ice Sword, and it could slay all demons and monsters. Mommy, look, I can already unleash sword intent. Within an ancient sword forest, a girl with short black hair tugged on the hand of a gentle woman as she yelled excitedly. The woman stroked the girl's head with a gentle expression. Not bad, Huan, but don't be too proud. You've only broken the record of being the youngest person to unleash sword intent in the Kingdom of the Nine States. You have to know that there's always someone better than you out there. Mommy, I know I'm only the number one in the Kingdom of the Nine States right now, so I won't be proud. She nodded like a little chick pecking at rice, and her bright purple eyes blinked in an extremely adorable manner. The woman felt like she had misled something, but it didn't matter as long as her daughter was happy. Huan Huan was an ancient sword Dao physique that only appeared once every 10,000 years, and she was already renowned throughout the entire sect at such a young age. Some of the disciples jokingly referred to her as the little sect leader. Her father was the great sect leader. Mommy, practice with me. I want to show you the number 1 sword intent in the kingdom of the 9 states. The little girl yelled excitedly. All right, I'll show you Huan Huan's sword intent. The woman smiled warmly, and the little girl's sweet and adorable smile was reflected in her eyes. Time flew by. Before she knew it, Huan Huan was already 10 years old. She could now enter the sect's sword forest to search for her natal weapon. Huan Huan, remember to maintain a clear mental state after you enter. Only then will the famed swords choose you. The woman instructed gently as she held the little girl's hand. Got it, Mommy. The little girl walked to the center of the sword forest with a wide grin. She slid her finger, and a drop of blood essence floated in the air. Then she closed her eyes. All of a sudden, 10,000 swords rang in unison, and the light from the sword monuments soared into the sky. All of the swords began to tremble, and it was as if they were saying, "Choose me, choose me." The woman stared at the scene before her with a dazed expression. She muttered to herself, "Is this the ancient sword Dao physique? No, I should say, is this Huan Huan's aptitude? This sword is too big. This sword is too thin. Is it a toothpick? This sword is too ugly. I don't like it either." Huh. So these are the 10 famed swords of the sect. So old-fashioned. Wow. Are there any pink swords? Just like that, Huan Huan, who originally wanted the famed swords to acknowledge her, became a scene where Huan Huan could casually choose her natal weapon. She strolled through the sword forest, and every famed sword trembled lightly. As long as the little girl hooked her little finger, the long sword would excitedly fly to her side and obey her every whim. However, what the woman didn't expect was that the little girl didn't even take a fancy to a single longsword. Huan Huan, why don't you choose again? The materials of the 10 famed swords of the sect are the best in the entire continent. If they're nourished well, they can become immortal tools. With the nourishment of your ancient sword Dao physique, they might even become legendary divine tools. Well, Mommy, I don't want them. They're all too ugly. I saw a sword in the Divine Sword Manual, and I really like it. It's also very suitable for my physique. Let's go and refine that sword, okay? Are you talking about the Great Eye Sword? But I want it. I'm a number 1 swordsman in the kingdom of the 9 states. Only it can bring out my aura. Mommy, you're the best to me. Just satisfy this request of mine. Sigh. All right, then let's go to the Void Spirit Realm. Chapter 342. In a tea room in the Heavenly Sword Sect, a man who had always been gentle and refined suddenly slammed the table angrily. No, there's no room for negotiation. I won't allow you to go. The woman also had a hint of anger on her face. The Void Spirit Tribe is a malignant tumor on this continent. They have done enough to exterminate entire countries and races. So what if we go to their divine mountain to steal their holy mine? The Void Spirit Tribe is indeed evil beyond redemption, but it's not our Heavenly Sword Sect's turn to stand up for them. Do you know the consequences of provoking them? Just to forge a sword for Huan Huan, you have to provoke them? I think Huan Huan is going to be spoiled rotten by you. The man's voice was stern, and there was no room for negotiation in his tone. The woman smiled. That's right. If I don't spoil her, who will? You have many children, but she is my only daughter. You know what the holy soul mine of extreme frost means to Huan Huan. It's fine if you don't agree. I can go by myself. Then, the woman turned around and left resolutely. Are you crazy? The man was so angry that he didn't know what to say. Inside the flying boat, the little girl held the woman's hand and asked curiously, Mama, isn't Papa coming with us? The woman stroked the little girl's head gently. He's busy right now. It's fine, I can go by myself. That's true. Mama is the number 1 female sword immortal of our Heavenly Sword Sect. Who can beat Mama? Mama, practice with me. Okay. In the Void Spirit Realm, there was a strange blue and green sky. Everything here seemed to be hovering between illusion and reality. Any color could become a part of the air, distorting, polluting, shattering. If someone who didn't have an extremely strong mind stepped into this space, they might immediately become insane or even fall into madness because of this environment. There were 5 divine mountains here, all of which produced peerless ores that made outsiders envious. One of the 5 divine mountains, the Divine Ice Mountain, was most famous for its holy soul mine of extreme frost. It condensed once every 3,000 years, and it had extremely powerful, comprehensive effects on one's consciousness. Similarly, only existences with extremely powerful soul compatibility would be able to obtain its acknowledgement. At this moment, this divine mountain welcomed the most terrifying chaos in its history. Mama, what are these things? When the girl saw the translucent, malevolent-looking monsters charging towards her, she was so scared that her little feet trembled. Don't be afraid. I'm here. These are just paper tigers. Look, they can't even block one of my swords. A warm smile appeared on the woman's face as she slashed a series of peerlessly domineering sword projections through the air, slicing all of the oncoming Void Spirit Tribe, living beings, into nothingness regardless of whether they were spirit bodies or divine bodies. The Void Spirit Tribe guards of the Divine Mountain were completely petrified by this god of slaughter. Even their high and mighty Void return to Void Stage Void Spirit God had been killed by this woman with just a few sword strikes. How were they supposed to defend? At the peak of the Divine Mountain, the woman held the girl's hand as she gazed at the translucent blue stone. The holy glacial soul mine condenses once every 3,000 years, and it has already been 1,000 years since it formed. You still haven't found the fated person, the woman said lightly as she looked at the stone. Juan, go and drip a drop of blood on it. The girl ran over excitedly and looked at the blue ore. It was exactly the same material as the one on the Divine Tool Handbook. The girl's bright purple eyes could even see through the stone and the energy dancing like fairies within it. A drop of blood essence dripped onto the surface of the blue stone, and the stone that had remained motionless for over 1,000 years suddenly erupted with a dazzling blue light. It's done. This is the sign of the holy glacial soul mine's approval. The woman's eyes lit up. After the holy glacial soul mine acknowledged its master, it had the most spiritual nature, so it had to be forged on the spot. Otherwise, its spiritual nature would quickly fade away. 9 Heaven's profound sword formation, activate. Following the woman's cry, 9 extremely powerful divine sense swords flew out from her mind, forming a vast sword formation. Juan, stay within the sword formation and don't move. There wasn't much time left for the woman, and she immediately began to forge the divine sword at the summit of the mountain. In order to forge the sword as quickly as possible, the vital energy of the entire divine mountain surged violently. Lightning, scorching flames, hammering blows, an inky black rift was slowly torn open in the blue-green sky. Within the rift, there was extreme chaos and darkness. A semi-transparent skeleton with crimson flames in its eyes and a black halo above its head slowly walked out from the rift. It looked toward the divine ice mountain with a cold expression. Xiao Hong, the great elder of the Heavenly Sword Sect, the wife of the sect leader, Lu Mingxian, and a return to void final stage sword immortal. Even Lu Mingxian wouldn't dare to cause trouble on the divine mountain. Who gave this B*TCH the guts to do so? A semi-transparent monster with 2 heads and a black body walked out from the rift with a cold smile on its face. Hee, you can't say that. If it weren't for the fact that the 2 of us just so happened to be nearby, perhaps Xiao Hong would have succeeded. If she were to hide in the Heavenly Sword Sect, we wouldn't be able to do anything either. As the black skeleton spoke, a spear formed from withered vines appeared in its hands. This withered and yellowed spear squirmed slightly, and a blood-red glow appeared on its tip. The Holy Spear of Death was formed from ancient hell vines that grew in the area with the densest aura of death on the yellow spring divine mountain. Once it was thrown, Any enemy with a lower cultivation base than the thrower would definitely be hit and die. This was the true spear of death. It was a pinnacle immortal tool that had already touched upon the subtle laws of karma. The skeleton with the black halo above its head was already a void spirit god at the return to void pinnacle stage. Black coffin screen. The two-headed monster made a series of hand seals. On the divine ice mountain, a carefree sword cry pierced through the clouds. The little girl looked at the beautiful light blue longsword, and her entire body became excited. Huan, do you like this sword? Xiao Hong handed the sword to the little girl with a dainty smile. This sword could nourish the little girl's consciousness, which had been suppressed by her ancient sword Dao physique. Perhaps this sword really was the best choice for her. I like it. This sword is so beautiful. Mommy is the best to me. The little girl happily extended her tender little hands, wanting to hold the long sword of her dreams in her arms. Ripples spread out and space froze. A bright flower of blood had appeared on the woman's lower abdomen at some point. The ancient vines wrapped around the spear pierced through the skin, glowing with a demonic red light, as if mocking this brief moment of joy. Xiao Hong looked at the spear in her abdomen in astonishment. Then she looked behind her and saw the two void spirit gods with restrained auras in the distance. She seemed to be deep in thought. The spear suddenly disappeared again, as if it had never appeared. Only the black lines spreading across the woman's abdomen and the incessant flow of blood were proof of what had just happened. The little girl was completely dumbfounded. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at the blood on the woman's abdomen. After a few seconds of absent-mindedness, she trembled all over and threw herself into Xiao Hong's arms. She covered the incessant bleeding wound and said in a panic, "Mommy, what's wrong? Are you okay?" Boom! A black rectangular space instantly enveloped the two of them on the mountaintop. This was an extremely terrifying spatial seal. Xiao Hong smiled bitterly and crushed the jade pendant she carried with her. Then, she held Lu Qianhuan in her arms and transformed into specks of light. The two-headed monster's expression faltered. Then, it looked at the skeleton beside it with a slightly embarrassed expression. She actually has the divine concealment jade. The black skeleton was expressionless. It's fine. Xiao Hong is already dead. As for that sword forged from the holy glacial soul, we'll get it back sooner or later. At the heavenly sword sect, Lu Mingxian looked at the woman lying on the ground whose aura was slowly dissipating, and his body trembled uncontrollably. He had miscalculated. He had thought that Xiao Hong would be able to return safely even if she encountered danger with the divine concealment jade. He had thought that since he wasn't going to personally take action this time, Xiao Hong wouldn't be able to fully represent the Heavenly Sword sect, and he would be able to slowly deal with the Void Spirit tribe. However, never would he have thought that Xiao Hong would be attacked by the power of karma. "Xiao Hong, who did this?" The man asked in a low voice as he suppressed his rage with all his might. The woman didn't seem to hear him. With a gentle expression, she gently stroked the girl who was wailing beside her. She softly instructed, Huan, after I leave, remember to practice your sword for 8 hours every day. Don't be lazy. Also, don't forget not to be too arrogant. You have to keep a low profile. Don't flaunt your wealth." Lu Mingxian half knelt in front of Xiao Hong. A huge amount of healing power surged into the woman's body. However, the black lines were like maggots in her bones, and he couldn't get rid of them. "Damn it, Xiao Hong. Quickly tell me who in the world did this." The man gritted his teeth, and the rage in his eyes was completely uncontrollable. "Father, hurry up and save Mother. I beg of you, hurry up and save her." Tears streamed down the little girl's face as she looked at her mother, who was becoming weaker and weaker, but there was nothing she could do. She could only beg the man before her. Huan, also don't be picky. Remember to make more friends and be happy every day." The woman's eyes became more and more misty. She was running out of time, and she only wanted to make the best use of her time to talk to her daughter. The little girl reflected in Xiao Hong's eyes was so adorable, and looking at her now made one's heart ache. She really didn't want to leave. She really wanted to spend more time with her child. Huan, stop talking nonsense with your father. Hurry up and let mother hug you. Good girl. You have to remember that mother loves you. Chiu Hong smiled and slowly closed his eyes as he inhaled the faint fragrance of the little girl in his arms. In the heavenly sword sect, the mournful tolling of the bell reverberated throughout heaven and earth. The little girl sat alone at the head of the bed. As the ear-piercing tolling of the bell drilled into her ears, her eyes were listless, and she hugged the blue long sword tightly. In the past, she used to hug her mother to sleep. Now, she could only hug an ice-cold sword. Since mother created you, I'll call you Great Ice. Great Ice, if I didn't want this sword back then, this wouldn't have happened, right? Great Ice. I'm the one who killed mother, right? Oh, that's right. If mother didn't create you, she wouldn't have died. You're also responsible. Clang. The little girl ruthlessly tossed the great ice sword onto the ground. The little girl curled up on the bed. Her eyes were dim, and her surroundings were deathly silent. Chapter 343. Sai, have you heard? In order to forge a sword, the little sect leader killed her own mother. Shoo! Don't spout nonsense. We'll keep this to ourselves. I even heard that a male disciple sparred with her a few days ago, and he was severely injured. No way. Why is she so hostile? That's why no one dares to get close to her now. Lu Qianhuan sat on the steps. The sun shone down on her indifferent face, making her appear extremely cold. She and the Great Eye Sword were connected telepathically, so her hearing was also extremely sharp. Naturally, she could hear the hushed conversation between two disciples in the distance. However, she didn't get angry. Instead, she sat there quietly. She felt that those people were right. She didn't have any friends. Thinking back to the past, it seemed like only her mother had accompanied her all this time. Her mother was her only friend. Now, she had caused her mother's death. That male disciple sparred with her out of goodwill. She sparred with the same standards as when she sparred with her mother. However, she had accidentally injured that male disciple. Mother, apart from making more friends, I've done everything you asked of me. I practice my swordsmanship for 8 hours every day. I'm not arrogant. I'm low-key. I don't rely on my father. I don't flaunt my wealth. And I'm not picky with my food. Huan still passed, right? The girl raised her head and stared blankly at the blue sky. She wanted to see something, and she wanted to hear some sort of response. However, all she got was silence and the autumn wind. 5 years later, Lu Qianhuan was 15 years old. Her inky black hair fell to her slender waist. Her figure was slender, and her features were extremely beautiful. However, she was also cold and aloof. She became a famous iceberg beauty in the sect. She still didn't have any friends. It wasn't that no one tried to approach her. To be honest, even if she had a cold personality, there were still people who were willing to try and communicate with her. Moreover, Lu Mingxian secretly encouraged other young disciples to communicate with her. However, all of this was to no avail. She shut herself off. She practiced her swordsmanship alone, read books alone, and enjoyed the scenery alone in the mountains behind the sect. Until one day, she saw her half-brother bring back a strange toy from the school. What is this? Oh, this is called a cell phone. Those moving images are called games. This is a good item from the mortal world. I've modified it. When it runs out of power, you can use your essence to recharge it. Do you want to play? Lu Qianhuan's purple eyes stared silently at the colorful world on the screen for a long time. Although the images of that world were crude, it was novel and interesting. It was separated from reality. Once she entered that world, she would have a new identity. It could be a pilot, it could be a general commanding the troops, it could be a soldier. The only thing that wasn't Lu Qianhuan, who had killed her mother with the great ice sword in her hand. She fell in love with mobile phones and games. She had found a partner, or a friend, who could bring her happiness. Yep, that was a cell phone. She didn't know when it started, but she slowly became addicted. Every day, aside from her unshakable swordsmanship practice, the only thing that accompanied her was this phone. She gradually became more optimistic, as if she had found a partner and someone to rely on. She even had a goal: learning Chinese characters, learning Mandarin, Learning everything in the mortal world at that time, she realized that her mother's last wish had finally been fulfilled. Mom, I have friends, and I found happiness. I'm happy every day, and I have many games to play. Juan, are you doing well? Hurry up and praise me. The young girl said happily as she pressed the phone button. A droplet of water dripped onto the screen like a clear lotus flower. It bloomed and was then wiped away. After being struck by the sword, the Void Spirit King's aura didn't decrease. Instead, it increased. Countless rainbow-colored lights converged on its body, forming a solid suit of armor. Lu Qianhuan looked on indifferently at the Void Spirit King, whose aura continued to increase. A blue glow flashed across her eyes. Frosty heavens. As her voice fell, a blue frosty aura transformed into colorful silk that encircled her graceful body. The strange and distorted colors in the surroundings suddenly stopped moving and strangely dissipated. Blue and white became the main colors of heaven and earth. Frost and snow fell incessantly, and the cold was bone-chilling. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Everything fell silent, and ice and snow covered the sky. The flames in the Void Spirit King's eyes seemed like they were about to be frozen by heaven and earth. However, it wasn't afraid at all. A terrifying aura erupted from its body, and it slashed its crimson scythe toward the woman in front of it. Its body was so fast that it transformed into a blur. However, its speed strangely became slower and slower. When it was only 3 feet away from the woman, it actually froze on the spot. Fear appeared in the Void Spirit King's eyes for the first time. A soul-piercing chill enveloped its entire body. Lu Qianhuan's expression didn't change in the slightest. She raised her great eye sword and slashed it down at the Void Spirit King. A blue sword projection fell just like that. It wasn't a majestic scene, but it was imbued with the true intent of severing one's consciousness with a single strike. A white line appeared on the Void Spirit King's body, and it was sliced in half. The two fell onto the white snowy ground and dissipated into green smoke. It had died a silent death. Congratulations, you've passed the Void Spirit Tribe trial. Lu Qianhuan sheathed her long sword and retracted her frosty heavens domain. Her cold and aloof demeanor also slowly disappeared along with her intent realm. How boring. I thought the Hell mode would be difficult. What a trashy dungeon. I could take on 10 of these Void Spirit Tribe members. She scorned the trial mercilessly before putting away the inheritance that had fallen from the sky. Within a certain dark space. Trashy dungeon? Trashy dungeon? She could take on 10? The bald male's face was already filled with despair upon hearing this. My dear Granddad, please spare me. It's not that the Void Spirit King isn't strong. It's that you're inhumanly strong. Within the stone chamber, Lu Qianhuan saw her team members waiting for her. Hey, Lu Qianhuan, why are you so slow? Don't tell me you've been playing in there? Enlin greeted her with a smile. Lu Qianhuan high-fived Enlin with a chuckle. It's not that I've been playing in there. It's just that the prelude to the Hell mode is too long. I spent a long time waiting for the boss to appear, and then the boss transformed during battle, so I had to wait even longer. Wow. Big Sister Lu, it's actually the Hell mode. Are the monsters in there strong? Tian Lingling instantly looked at Lu Qianhuan with reverence upon hearing that it was the Hell mode. They're too weak. I took care of them in 2 strikes, and I didn't even use my trump card. Lu Qianhuan pondered for a moment before replying with a serious expression. Tian Lingling was about to become a fangirl upon hearing this. Even Enlin nodded in agreement. He felt like Lu Qianhuan was becoming more and more like him, and he was very pleased. Huh, Tang Shimin still hasn't come out? Lu Qianhuan thought that she was the last person to come out, but after coming to her senses, she discovered that one person was still missing. At this moment, Tang Shimin was still chasing after a black dragon, but he couldn't catch up to it no matter what. Chapter 344. A black figure whizzed past in the murky sky, occasionally spitting scorching flames behind it, as if it were spitting saliva. A cultivator chased after it relentlessly, slashing at the flames with his sword as he cursed incessantly. This black figure and cultivator were none other than the black dragon from the Dragon Tribe trial, and Tangshiman, who was trying to defeat it. This pursuit had already been going on for a long time. The black dragon was unable to defeat Tangshiman in a head-on battle, but it was able to fly at an extremely fast speed, so it decided to engage in guerrilla warfare. As a result, Tangshiman was forced into a passive position. Stupid C***NT lizard. Stop if you have the guts. Let's fight fair and square. Tangshiman cursed as he chased after it with all his might. The reply he received was still a cold sneer from the black dragon, as well as scorching flames from its mouth. Shameless, simply too shameless. Tangshiman had never encountered such a shameless enemy. This black dragon was a disgrace to the proud and powerful dragon tribe. Stupid C***NT cultivator. Catch me if you have the guts. If you catch me, I'll let you, The black dragon chuckled as it retorted without any sense of guilt. The veins on Tangshiman's forehead bulged upon hearing this. This dragon was shameless enough to spit at him even as it was fleeing for its life. How could he tolerate this? This was simply intolerable. Vital lightning slash. He roared as he slashed out with his longsword, creating two white lightning sword projections that formed the shape of a cross. The sword projections whistled toward the black dragon with a ferocious aura as lightning crackled in their wake. Unexpectedly, the black dragon was already very familiar with Tangshiman's sudden counterattack. He immediately reacted extremely quickly and moved diagonally downwards, dodging Tangshiman's attack with ease and grace. Ha ha ha, you're still too young to be able to hit me. The black dragon watched as the cross blade slash, carrying with it the sharp gleam of lightning, whizzed past its body and began to laugh loudly in satisfaction. Tangshiman's expression darkened further and further. The black dragon's stamina hadn't been depleted even after chasing him for so long. This was evident from how it was able to dodge his sword strikes. If things continued like this, perhaps he would be the first one to fall. Just as he was hesitating, a loud pff suddenly erupted from not far away. The dark green gas was like a hurricane, catching him off guard and bringing with it an incomparably foul odor. Ha ha! You can only eat my fart if you follow behind me. How does it taste? Do you still want it? The black dragon's extremely savage laughter could be heard, and it even twisted its butt to demonstrate its power. Tangshiman's body trembled with rage, and he almost threw up blood on the spot. This fart finally became the fuse that made him make up his mind. Damn it, so what if I collapse for 3 days? I'll fight you to the death. Tangshiman suddenly slit his own wrist with his sword. His blood began to glow with a dazzling crimson light under the guidance of a certain spell technique, which then wound itself around the blade of his sword. The power in his body was quickly drawn out by his blood and gathered on the longsword. In an instant, the red light from the longsword soared into the sky, as if it wanted to tear apart the gloomy sky. The power it contained caused the wind and clouds to surge and the space to tremble. The black dragon also sensed the terrifying power behind it. For the first time, it felt the threat of death. Without thinking, it sped up with all its might. Brother, put down your sword. Let's talk this out. The black dragon roared. Hee, you're finally begging for mercy? But it's too late. Tangshiman chuckled coldly as he pointed 2 fingers at the black dragon. Go! The longsword, which was imbued with astonishing power, transformed into a crimson streak of light and pierced toward the black dragon at an extremely terrifying speed. The black dragon turned pale with fright, and it immediately changed its position in midair in an attempt to evade the flying sword's attack. However, not only was the flying sword extremely fast, but it was also extremely agile. When the black dragon changed its position, the flying sword also changed its position. The black dragon opened its mouth and spat out a streak of flames. However, the flying sword was imbued with unstoppable power, and it tore the massive streak of flames in half. No, the black dragon roared before feeling a chill run down its spine. Immediately afterward, its stomach, neck, and head. The crimson streak of light pierced through the black dragon's entire body at an extremely terrifying speed. Boom! The massive black dragon's body finally lost all signs of life, and it plummeted from the sky before crashing heavily onto the ground. Congratulations! You've passed the Dragon Tribe trial. Tears welled up in Tang Shimin's eyes as he looked at the light of inheritance descending from the sky. He had succeeded. He had finally succeeded. He was finally no longer the man who had nothing to gain. While his teammates were receiving divine weapons, divine flames, and immortal fruits, Tang Shimin was dealt a heavy blow. He was the most outstanding senior in the team, but he was the only one who had nothing to gain from this trial. However, he had finally received the inheritance this time. Even though he had paid a heavy price, at least he had succeeded. After receiving the inheritance from the Dragon Tribe, Tang Shimin's eyes lit up. This was the dragonflight technique. No wonder the black dragon was able to run away so quickly. He had most likely learned this technique as well. A spatial gate began to appear. Tang Shimin looked at the gate, and his legs suddenly gave out from under him, and he collapsed to the ground. The after effects of using the mystic technique had appeared, and he was completely drained of energy for 3 days, and Lin and the others waited in the stone chamber for a long time. But Tang Shimin still didn't appear. Time passed by slowly, and the more time passed by, the heavier everyone's hearts became. Senior student Tang wouldn't have encountered some kind of mishap, right? Hu Guan asked with an uneasy expression. If it really was a difficult mode trial, then he shouldn't have died. Xianyuan Cheng said with furrowed brows. Tang Shimin was the most outstanding cultivator among the fourth-year students. He was extremely powerful, and he most likely had many trump cards up his sleeves as well. There was no reason for him to die in a trial of this level. And Lin stared at the empty passageway in silence. He had said that he would meet Tang Shimin here, so he had to wait until Tang Shimin appeared. After what seemed like an eternity, he finally saw a figure slowly crawling toward him. That's right, that figure was in an extremely sorry state, and he was crawling over. Senior student Tang. And Lin yelled as tears welled up in his eyes. Just what kind of grueling battle had he been through? He was perfectly fine, but now both of his legs were crippled. All of the other team members also stared at the figure crawling toward them with anguish on their faces. This spatial passageway was one way, so they could only look on as Tang Shimin crawled toward them in an extremely tragic manner. Tang Shimin raised his head to look at the group of people at the end of the passageway, who had tears in their eyes and expressions of sympathy on their faces, and he felt a F***king toothache. I'm paralyzed because of exhaustion. Do you guys have to be like this? Why are you guys acting as if I've already sacrificed myself? Are you guys looking down on us? Huh. Tang Shimin had finally obtained an inheritance, but it was as if he had suddenly become the most pitiful person in the entire team. He felt as if his pride had been insulted. After crawling out of the spatial passageway, Tang Shimin was very gently carried onto the black brick by Lin. All of the team members offered words of consolation, not giving Tang Shimin any chance to explain himself. Listen to me, I couldn't catch up to the black dragon, so I had to use a mystic technique. That's enough. No need to explain, senior student Tang. Rest well, and leave the rest to us. Senior student Tang, life is the most important thing. As long as you live, anything is possible. We won't look down on you just because you're a cripple. Tang Shimin. Within the darkness, the bald male finally heaved a sigh of relief. He was very thankful to Tang Shimin. Finally, a more pitiful person had appeared. This was more like a trial. Black Spirit Snake shot a cold glance at the bald male. The bald male's body trembled as a boundless chill swept over him, causing cold sweat to pour down his back and almost suffocate him. Only after a while did he feel the chill disappear. What? You're a little happy that the trial was very successful? Black Spirit Snake asked with a smile. The bald male felt as if he had just taken a stroll through the gates of hell. He lowered his head and didn't dare to say anything. Go. Change the next 3 nodes to hell difficulty. This team is too powerful. I'm sure Shouyang won't mind us doing this. Black Spirit Snake continued. All right, Master Black. I'll do it right away. The bald male didn't dare to refuse Black Spirit Snake's request, and he immediately ran off to raise the level of the tomb to the highest possible level. According to the original settings, the last 3 nodes were at normal difficulty. Now, they skipped over the hard difficulty and changed to hell difficulty. He didn't dare to imagine what would happen, but since this was Black Spirit Snake's request, he could only comply. Chapter 345. In order to redeem his image, Tang Shimin took this opportunity to explain his experiences in the Dragon Tribe trial to everyone in an earnest manner. Hearing this, everyone nodded and listened attentively. However, for some reason, the sympathy in their eyes became even more pronounced. F***CK. Do they think I'm making this up? Tang Shimin lay on the black brick, and he couldn't help but grieve. Senior Xiang, I'll leave the task of protecting senior student Tang to you, and Lin instructed with a solemn expression. After becoming their guide, Battle God Xiang had become Tang Shimin's babysitter. The pitiful battle god had no say in this, and could only accept his fate obediently. After resting for a while, everyone decided to continue onward. After pushing open the heavy stone gate, they were greeted by a black passageway that gradually widened. The aura of danger and chaos could be sensed even from within the passageway. And Lin furrowed his brows. He felt like this aura was extremely familiar. After passing through the passageway, they appeared on a piece of decaying earth. That's right, this was a type of decay that was heading toward destruction. Not a single blade of grass grew, rocks were decaying, structures were collapsing, and the air was oppressive. It was as if everything in front of them was about to collapse into nothingness. The 10 Realm Guardian tribes have arrived in this alternate dimension. Please exterminate all foreign tribes that have appeared. The sudden voice in the sky caused everyone to falter momentarily. Huh, it sounds like we're part of the 10 Realm Guardian tribes? Xin Yuancheng was a little surprised. It's probably because we accepted their inheritance, so they view us as part of them? And Lin was also a little speechless. Haha, so this is role-playing then? Interesting. Lu Qianhuan was excited. It was quite clear that they had become part of the 10 Realm Guardian tribes and were responsible for exterminating foreign tribes and protecting this world. Is that the point? Don't you guys have anything to say about the fact that the trial is at hell difficulty? Tian Lingling's face was a little pale. Oh, and Lin came to a sudden realization upon hearing this. He turned to the middle-aged man beside him and said, Senior Xiang, I'll leave Tian Lingling's safety to you as well. Battle God Xiang. Tian Lingling, boom! Right at this moment, the ground suddenly collapsed and split open, revealing a pitch-black hole. And Lin gripped his evil-slaying sword tightly as he stared at the black crater. Then, an extremely dangerous aura overflowed from the inside of the pit. Chaos, distortion, violence, fear, all sorts of negative mental energy spread in all directions, as if trying to pull everyone into an abyss. 3 figures leaped out of the pit. They were made of a sticky, pitch-black, twisted substance, but they were extremely solid. A pair of red eyeballs were trembling at a high frequency, giving off a feeling of madness. The moment Lin saw them, he knew what they were, demons. Not only was it a nefarious demon, but it was also a high-level nefarious demon. Just like the leader of the nefarious demons that they had met in the abyss of evil, it was incomparably solid and gave off an extremely dangerous feeling. Everyone, be careful. Don't be pierced by the black substance, or your mind will be severely damaged. And Lin reminded. He still remembered the time when he was stabbed by the nefarious demon and almost became a nefarious demon. Thankfully, Xiao Hong was there to heal him with her light. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to hold on. Just as they were speaking, the 3 nefarious demons transformed into black afterimages as they charged toward the team members. One of the nefarious demons charged directly toward Lin, and a peculiar smile could be seen on its pitch-black face. And Lin's expression remained unchanged as he slashed his evil-slaying sword toward the nefarious demon's face at lightning speed, leaving a crescent sword projection of 100 feet in length in its wake. The nefarious demon's body twisted uncannily, and it evaded the astonishing sword projection. At the same time, it extended its palm toward Lin. As its arm wriggled, the black substance suddenly elongated like a sharp sword being unsheathed, so fast that the air screeched. After all, Enlin had battled a nefarious demon once before, so he was already prepared and immediately raised his sword to defend himself. The black substance crashed into the evil-slaying sword, and the tremendous force of the collision caused him to slide back. The nefarious demon was just about to give chase when a flaming sword projection imbued with lightning suddenly appeared before it. The sword projection instantly engulfed the nefarious demon's body. The nefarious demon wailed in anguish as it stumbled back in retreat. However, the green figure pressed forward in a domineering manner and unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. Seeing this, Enlin realized that Su Xiaolan had stolen the limelight. How could he allow this? He immediately materialized wings of wind behind his back and pounced toward the nefarious demon without any hesitation. The second nefarious demon charged toward Tang Shimin, who was lying on the black brick. However, it was blocked by Xianyuan Cheng, Su Qinyan, Yao Mingxi, and Hu Guan. Under their combined attacks, the nefarious demon was forced into retreat. The last nefarious demon wanted to kill White Spirit Snake, but it was completely crushed by Battle Goddess Bai Qiong. The battle had only just begun, and the nefarious demon was already at an absolute disadvantage. Lu Qianhuan looked on from the sidelines. It didn't seem like she needed to do anything, so she launched a light cannon at the nefarious demon from time to time. However, right at this moment, a wailing sound suddenly emanated from the black crater. Immediately afterward, an extremely thick pillar of black light soared into the sky. Hundreds and thousands of nefarious demons that were filled with boundless negative emotions rained down from the top of the pillar of light like a torrential downpour. Holy F asterisk CK, so how many? Enlin's flesh crawled as he looked up at the dense horde of nefarious demons in the sky. Soon, a dozen or so nefarious demons pounced toward him. A dozen or so nefarious demons were torn to shreds by his sword projection. These nefarious demons weren't very powerful. Most of them were of the Tao body stage or spirit nurturing stage. However, there were simply too many of them. From a rough estimate, there were hundreds or even thousands of nefarious demons on this land. If one was the slightest bit careless, they could be torn to shreds by these nefarious demons. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong unleashed her divine slash, and a boundless green sword projection sliced the powerful nefarious demon in front of her in half. The sword projection extended for over 1,000 feet, and a dozen or so nefarious demons were instantly annihilated by it. She hadn't even retracted her sword when another dozen or so nefarious demons pounced toward her. Bai Qiong's brows furrowed slightly as she looked at the horde of nefarious demons. She grabbed White Spirit Snake and flew toward Battle God Ziyang. She felt that Battle God Ziyang's area of effect flame attacks were the best way to deal with the nefarious demons. However, Battle God Ziyang was like a salted fish at this moment. He created a ring of flames around him, and whenever a nefarious demon charged into the ring of flames, he would instantly incinerate it. Aren't you going to incinerate all the nefarious demons outside? Bai Qiong asked as she pulled White Spirit Snake into the ring of flames. Battle God Ziyang replied expressionlessly, "My mission is only to protect Tian Lingling and Tang Shimin. Besides, I don't even have my divine flame anymore, so I don't have the ability to incinerate all the nefarious demons outside." It could be seen that Battle God Ziyang's resentment was quite deep. After Xianyuan Cheng and the others slayed the powerful nefarious demon, they also retreated into the ring of flames created by Battle God Ziyang. "Oi, why aren't you guys attacking? All the nefarious demons have come to me, and I'm under a lot of pressure." Ziyang spoke with a displeased expression. "It's safer to stick together and defend." Xianyuan Cheng spoke as he unleashed a long-range immortal spell. Enlin and Su Xiaolan had also slain the powerful nefarious demon and were flying toward Battle God Ziyang's Ring of Flames. Gundam 1, Gundam 2, go to the Ring of Flames and release a protective barrier. Enlin took out the Gundams from his storage ring and issued an order. "Enlin, what are you doing?" Su Xiaolan raised her brows when she saw Enlin suddenly stop in his tracks. "Me? I'm going to try out a new technique. A crimson symbol appeared on the back of Enlin's hand. Immediately afterward, a vast and boundless true flame intent swept forth in all directions.